just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's a time for the vegan community to get together, as well as an opportunity for non-vegans to try going plant-based.
Well, joining us now is some of her delicious hummus, and we both love hummus, this is a great thing. This is the founder of Chickpea, Hannah McCollum. Hannah, lovely to meet you. And you've brought in some of your beautiful products in front of you here, so can you talk us through some of them?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a range of chilled hummus, and then latest to the range of a new ambient snack pot, which is a fridgeless hummus that doesn't require refrigeration. But I started Chickpea because of my love for hummus, but also sustainability and reducing food waste and encouraging people to be more plant-based without saying go vegan.
Does normal, say, traditional hummus have anything that's not vegan appropriate in it?
Not really.
No,
I think
it's always chickpeas, olive oil, maybe some other bits.
Yeah, lemon juice, aquafibre or water to help with the consistency, garlic, and rapeseed oil or olive oil. And
there's a bit of a misconception about veganism that I hear a lot, where people say, look, I'm not a vegan, I love my steaks, I'll just get out of there now. But there's a misconception that you don't get the protein, you don't get the fats, and you're kind of just eating processed salads and, fake meat and things. But that's not quite the case, especially with chickpeas, right?
Yeah, I think protein is really important, and actually a lot of people think I need a certain amount of fish every week or meat, but actually a lot of the fish and meat that you're eating are eating higher protein foods, so algae, seaweed, pulses, all these types of plant-based foods. For me, veganism is like you could have a delicious rye seeded bread with just loads of roasted vegetables, seeds, tahini sauce on top.
That sounds
and there's nothing beige in there at all.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, hello and welcome to GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. And for the next few hours, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me for the next few hours, political commentator Lynn May and also political commentator Jonathan Liss. Now, it's been confirmed that 5 people, including a child, have died after a car drove into crowds at a German Christmas market. City officials say over 200 people were injured, and the suspect, a 50-year-old Saudi doctor, is believed to have acted alone. I will bring you the latest throughout the show. Then, coming up, do you believe Nigel Farage could run the economy? Chancellor Rachel Reeves has launched a scathing attack on him, and she claims that Reform leader hasn't got a clue. So I've got a poll up on X asking you that very question. Do you believe that Nigel Farage could run the economy? Cast your vote now. Then, in difficult conversations, adult content creator Bonnie Blue will be here live in the studio. Now, she's become one of the most controversial figures this year by engaging in sexual, well, what can only be called marathons. Then, my niggle, are Labour a party of absolute hypocrites?
And replacing the unelected House of Lords with a new, smaller, democratically elected second chamber.
Really? Then, in clickbait, this anti-Keir Starmer parody song, which has reached #1 in the download charts. Have a listen.
It'll be freezing this Christmas while Keir Starmer's warm.
What do you think? Is it funny? Is it not? But before we get started, let's get your latest news with Sophia Wensler.
Nana, thank you. Good afternoon. It's just gone 3 o'clock. These are your headlines from the GB Newsroom. First, at least 5 people, including a child, have been killed after a car drove into crowds at a Christmas market in Germany. The suspect, a 50-year-old Saudi doctor with reported Islamophobic views, has been arrested as Chancellor Olaf Scholz promises a full investigation and justice. European leaders, including Sir Keir Starmer, have expressed solidarity, calling the attack horrific. Flowers have been laid at the scene ahead of a memorial service in the city's cathedral this evening. Our Home and Security editor Mark White has been looking into the lone attacker believed to be behind the incident in Magdeburg.
He is a 50-year-old, originally from Saudi Arabia, who arrived in Germany in 2006 and claimed asylum, having fled Saudi Arabia, wanted by the Saudi authorities over allegations of rape and other criminal offences. However, the German authorities granted him refugee status in 2016 on human rights grounds.
Now, time is running out for pensioners to claim pension credit and secure their winter fuel payment for 2024-2025, with the deadline just hours away. Online applications close at 11:59 p.m. and phone lines will be open until 3 o'clock this afternoon for last-minute calls. Around 760,000 pensioners could miss out, with the benefit topping up weekly incomes and unlocking extra support. The change, announced by Chancellor Rachel Reeves, means winter fuel payments now go only to those on means-tested benefits, slashing recipients from 11.4 million to just 1.5 million. Scrap staff parking charges, that's a call from unions, as new research reveals 1 in 4 NHS trusts in England have raised fees for patients, staff, or both in the last 2 years. Patients' charities say the charges unfairly penalise unwell people, while NHS leaders argue financial pressures leave trusts little choice but to charge. The rises, often targeting city centre hospitals, have seen higher earners pay more, while NHS staff collectively spent over £70 million on parking last year. Unions say health workers are on their knees and need support, not extra costs, as they face the strain of chronic understaffing and the fallout from the pandemic. The Department of Health insists fees are locally set but must be reasonable. Now, crowds across the Northern Hemisphere have been gathering from early on this morning to get a sight of the winter solstice, marking the shortest day and longest night of the year. In London, there's just under 8 hours of daylight, with sunrise at 8:04 and sunset at 3:53 p.m, and even less for people further north. The solstice signals the return of longer days and is celebrated worldwide, from pagan Yule festivals to modern traditions inspired by ancient customs. Events at Stonehenge are among the most iconic, drawing thousands to witness the so-called rebirth of the sun. Wherever you are, today's daylight is less than half of what we'll see on the longest day of the year. Cash tops the list of Christmas gifts for young adults, a new survey has revealed. Nearly half of 16 to 24-year-olds prefer cash, with 40% happy to receive a voucher and 36% open to a bank transfer. A third would even like a direct payment into their savings account, while a fifth would still welcome a cheque. But across all age groups, gift cards and vouchers remain the most popular choice for financial gifts. And as Christmas falls midweek, experts say cash machines will be even busier this year, with customers set to withdraw around £1.5 billion in just 1 week. Wet, windy and wild, Christmas travel plans for millions could be blown off course this weekend. Yellow weather warnings for wind cover much of the UK, with gusts of up to 80 miles per hour forecast for Scotland and northern coastal areas. The Met Office says road, rail and ferry disruption is likely as millions hit the roads. Friday expected to be the busiest travel day since records began in 2010. Showers could bring snow and icy conditions to parts of Scotland, with strong winds making Sunday's journeys exhausting, according to the RAC. Winds will ease by Monday, but a mild and cloudy Christmas is on the cards for most of the UK. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now it's back to Nana.
Good afternoon and welcome. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. You won't believe what's just happened. I won't tell you, don't worry. But it's now been confirmed that 5 people, including a child, have died. Now, that was after the car crash, and this is the car that drove into crowds at the German Christmas market. City officials say that over 200 people were injured, and the suspect, a 50-year-old Saudi doctor, is believed to have acted alone. I'll be bringing you the latest throughout the show. Then, coming up for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, do you believe Nigel Farage could run the economy? Chancellor Rachel Reeves has launched a scathing attack on him and claims that the Reform leader hasn't got a clue. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, do you believe Nigel could run the economy? There's a poll up on X asking you that very question. Cast your vote. Then in the Pulse. Now, this is an extraordinary story. It's a breakthrough that shows that Alzheimer's may sometimes, in some cases, be caused by the herpes virus. Now, that travels to the gut. So it travels to the gut and then travels from the gut to the brain. Fascinating. Dr. Thorin Govind will be here to give us more. All of that coming up. And as ever, do not forget, in the next hour, Bonnie Blue will be joining me live in the studio. Yes, you've heard it here. You won't want to miss that. As ever, send me your thoughts, post your comments at gbnews.com/your say. So it's just coming up to 9 minutes after 3 o'clock. 5 people have been killed and over 200 injured after a car drove into crowds at a German Christmas market last night. Now, the suspected attacker was arrested at the scene and is believed to be a 50-year-old doctor from Saudi Arabia. Now, the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, has said that he's horrified by this atrocious attack. Joining me now is UK correspondent for Die Zeit, Jochen Bittner. I hope I said that right. So,
absolutely.
Talk to me, what happened exactly? For some people who may not have heard the news, what exactly happened?
Well, in the town of Magdeburg yesterday night, this 50-year-old doctor that your news just mentioned, he drove a BMW at high speed into a Christmas market, which was obviously crowded. And the authorities will have a lot of questions to answer as to why this was possible, because as everywhere now in Western Europe, the German Christmas markets, they are protected by bollards and barriers. But in this case, obviously, a gap was left for a tram line to move through. And it appears that the perpetrator used this gap to drive the car into the crowds.
Now, when obviously the perpetrator was driving at speed, I hear that the car didn't slow down. Do we know more as to whether this was deliberate or whether he had some sort of medical emergency or whether there was anything more that could have been an explanation as to why this happened?
This, Nana, is a very curious case. This guy that we are talking about, we're finding out more about his motives minute after minute. And it appears that he was both, if you like, Islamophobic or anti-Islamic, and also anti-German in a way. He ran a kind of helpline for asylum seekers from Saudi Arabia. At the same time, he got so annoyed with the German refugee system and asylum system that he decried what he called the Islamization of Germany and Europe. And he was so angry with the Germans because he believed that they were actually, again, then chasing and persecuting refugees from Saudi Arabia. So obviously what we can say so far is that this man is deranged.
I think we just slightly lost you. Sorry, go on. You said he's deranged and then we lost you from there.
Oh yeah, he's obviously deranged. He worked in a facility for mentally ill people close to Magdeburg himself. And this, of course, also raises the question, if this guy had radicalized in the course of the past few months, why did nobody there notice? I mean, obviously, if you work in a hospital for the mentally ill, some colleagues might see telltale signs of yourself becoming unstable or radicalized. And then again, we hear that there were warnings from the Saudi government to the German authorities. There was also a warning from Saudi lady, warning them of what she perceived as a radicalization of this guy. And the warning, as far as we know, I mean, he portrayed himself in an interview a couple of months ago with a renowned German newspaper as being, I quote, the biggest Islam critic in history. And then again, he went in touch with other ex-Muslims in Germany who themselves had doubt about his version of things, namely being an ex-Muslim. So, I mean, it's very hard to figure out at this stage what was actually his motivation. But what we can say was that he wanted to hurt Germans. He actually announced that he wanted to kill Germans and wanted to take revenge for what he saw as some kind of maltreatment against him and against other people from Saudi Arabia. And of course, this is not founded in actual sense. I think we are dealing with a sick mind here, basically.
Yeah, we really are. Justin Bittner, thank you very much. Really good to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, well, I mean, it's frightening, isn't it? What are your thoughts? gbnews.com/your say. Stay tuned, though. We've got loads more still to come. If you just tuned in, welcome on board. It is fast approaching 15 minutes after 3 o'clock. I'm Nana Akua. Now, Sue Gray, that name, the civil servant who investigated Partygate and went on to become Sir Keir Starmer's Chief of Staff, has been made a life peer as part of the Prime Minister's 30 new appointments as he attempts to swing the House of Lords his way. Meanwhile, Downing Street yesterday has confirmed that Lord Peter Mandelson will be the next UK ambassador to the United States, with Sir Keir Starmer saying the Labour grandee will bring unrivalled experience to the role and take our partnership with the United States from strength to strength. But why doesn't he have a listen? Why did you have a listen? Have a listen to Lord Mandelson and his previous comments about President-elect Donald Trump.
With an American president who is little short of a white nationalist and racist. Even those who have a sneaking admiration for Donald Trump because of the strength of his personality, nonetheless regard him as reckless and a danger to the world.
Perfect choice, wouldn't you say? Honestly, seriously. Joining me now, political commentator Jess Gill. Jess, welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Right, let's talk about this. Peter Mandelson, why... is he a good choice?
Honestly, I don't know too much about him. I would say, yes, he is a good choice from what I know.
Well, let's talk about these appointments then, because Keir Starmer was adamant about getting rid of hereditary peers, and now what he's done is he's clearly filling it with people to swing the balance in his favour.
Honestly, I'm very much in favour of hereditary peers, despite the average viewpoint of my age demographic, because honestly, I think it's a testament to the legacy and the heritage of Britain. I think it's a very noble position to have, and I think if you look at the hereditary peers throughout time, they have done a good job, and I think actually it's a positive thing not to be so politicised, but to be tied to a duty, to an honour of your country. And so I think hereditary peers are a great thing, in all honesty.
So what do you think of Keir Starmer then? Because he's obviously got rid of them, and now he's replacing them with his own sort of cronies, people that he's chosen, one of them being Sue Gray.
Yeah, so I think we can see the effect of getting rid of hereditary peers through the appointment of Sue Gray with the because obviously through Partygate and through her previous controversies around particularly like Boris Johnson's administration, his government, we can see that obviously she's a loaded figure, and it calls into question what's the point of the House of Lords. And I think the House of Lords, it should be to keep the House of Commons in check. It should be a sort of check and balance to make sure that there is this element of government that isn't just the elected parts, because with the elected parts, even though I wouldn't really consider Keir Starmer's government elected, considering the amount of unpopularity they had
and
in
the
the
low
last...
turnout as
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't consider them the most popular government. And I think right now they shouldn't be enacting radical change because they don't have a mandate for that, I don't think. So with the House of Lords, I think it's quite ridiculous they're putting forward someone radical like Sue Gray, who is obviously very controversial and I would argue very unpopular with the general public.
It does seem a bit odd, doesn't it? Do you get the sense that the current government, because you said they're putting things forward without actually having a mandate for it, even though we've put them in charge to run the country, do you get the impression that they are going in the wrong direction?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously I'm biased because I'm more right-wing, but I think they have given red meat, weirdly enough, to the voters who care quite a lot about immigration, which I would say is the key issue of our time. They are more radical than I would argue. Kemi Badenoch, at least Starmer, is in rhetoric, which is ironic because the guy is so uncharismatic and so unideological, it's crazy. So I think he is willing to say whatever. I think that's the issue of Keir Starmer. But in terms of what he's putting through, obviously with the winter fuel payments, that was a punishment, I would say, on boomers, on our older generation who should be looked after. And also in terms of the farmers, why are you literally biting the hand that feeds you? It's ridiculous.
And also the Waspi women. They came out and said they gave their unvetted support. Lots of them came out to tell us how they were going to support the Waspi women. Then they've done the exact opposite.
Yeah, well, to be fair with politicians, you can't really trust what they say, and I think Keir Starmer is the epitome of that. He is the key example of that, where he'll say one thing and do another, and that's just modern politics nowadays.
Well, it's all of them,
Someone
isn't it?
like Nigel Farage, I think he would be such a good Prime Minister, and he would say he would do what the general public actually wants, and I think he's a better representation. So I'm just waiting for that gracious day when the general election comes out and the Tories are obliterated with 0 seats and also Labour are destroyed as well.
Do you think the Tories are a busted flush?
I hope so. I mean, honestly, since the general election, I can't remember one thing that Kemi Badenoch has actually done other than saying that she doesn't like sandwiches. I think they've become so irrelevant right now. And honestly, I'm quite happy. I think the Conservative Party deserve to die after how they've betrayed the country in terms of immigration, in terms of the economy, in terms of not being Conservative at all. And I think, as we've seen in the last election, the general public are just, quite frankly, fed up of it.
Yeah, well, Jess Gill, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That is political commentator Jess Gill. Those are her thoughts. What are yours? gbnews.com/your say. You're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Coming up next, it's time for the Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, is Sir Keir Starmer out of touch with his appointments in the House of Lords? This is GB News.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
this is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
The birth rate in Britain has sunk to 1.49, well below replacement rate. Yet policies pursued by both major parties are still to spend huge sums to encourage parents back to their work when their children are still at preschool age. Should we not be helping parents to spend longer at home, asks his new book, whilst recognising that in an age of sex equality, the question is fraught. David Goodhart joins me now.
We undervalue the domestic realm, and that has led to lots of the most negative trends in British society. About half of children in the UK are not living with both of their biological parents by the age of 14. We have, of families with dependent children, about 24-25% are single-parent households. Mainly mothers, and they're doing, valiant work. But of course, it means you don't have the investment in children that a two-parent family can give. I mean, the reason why it's a care dilemma is that a lot of these negative trends are also kind of intimately related to positive things, like that movement of women into work, the fact that women are no longer so defined by marriage and motherhood, the fact that women and men are freer to leave unhappy relationships. And the challenge for modern liberal societies is, how we hold on to those freedoms, but get a better balance, which means, I think, investing more in the domestic realm. We spend a total now of £9 billion on childcare subsidies. Why not give that subsidy direct to young parents so they could then choose whether to subsidise themselves, as it were, to be able to afford to stay at home, or to give it to a nursery, or to give it to granny, or to to keep it in the home.
GB News.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Good afternoon. If you just tuned in, welcome on board. You're sick of the shopping, sick of the shops. Oh, God. You're better off doing it online, to be honest. You're with me. I'm Nana Akua, live on TV, online and on digital radio. It's time for my Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, is Sir Keir Starmer out of touch with his for those that he picked for the Houses of Lords, or the House of Lords even? Thank God there's not two of those. Yesterday, the Prime Minister confirmed Peter Mandelson as UK ambassador to the United States, despite the former Blair ally calling Donald Trump a danger to the world in the past. And then he also appointed Partygate investigator and his former Chief of Staff, Sue Gray, as a member of the House of Lords. I mean, really, you couldn't make this up. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, is Sir Keir Starmer totally out of touch with these people that he's appointed? Well, joining me now, political commentator Lynn May, and also political commentator Liz. Hello. Jonathan's come as a leaf blowing in the wind. Sorry, Jonathan. Let's start with you then. Keir Starmer, totally out of touch. I mean, why would you appoint Sue Gray into the House of Lords? He said he was going to get rid of hereditary peers, which he did, and then he's now filling the House of Lords with his cronies.
Well, I think that Labour had the right idea a couple of years ago when they said that they wanted to completely get rid of an appointed Lords and replace it with an elected upper chamber. That I would completely support. But obviously, the Labour Party, the government has a lot on its plate. It's decided that isn't necessarily a priority for the first year or the first term. They saw how deep Tony Blair got bogged down in Lords reform when he attempted it in 1999-2000. And so they've settled on this compromise of getting rid of the hereditary peers, obviously long overdue, and sort of setting an age limit for Lords. So any government has to work with the system that it has. And the system that we have at the moment, almost uniquely in the democratic world, is that we have one entire chamber of parliament where there is no accountability to anybody at all. I don't think that is sustainable in the long term, but it's certainly not sustainable when you have a governing party that has just won a landslide victory, has a huge majority in the Commons, but might well find its agenda frustrated in the second chamber of Parliament by not having a majority and having the opposition party, by virtue of that party having been in office for 14 years, having more peers. So basically, they have to. Of course, they have to.
You rig it. That's the word.
You work with the system that you have. In the way that the Conservatives appointed many hundreds of peers while they were in government. Now Labour has every duty and obligation and right to try and establish a majority in the Lords so it can see its agenda implemented. They just won an election, Nana. They have the right to see their agenda implemented. I support an elected upper house.
They've got rid of hereditary peers, which I actually think is...
Well, they haven't got rid of them yet. They're still there.
Well, that's the plan. And I personally think that actually I'd rather have a few people that were not elected, because look at the ones we've got. Look at the state of them, don't they?
Yeah, I absolutely hate this whole ping-pong of politics. Oh, because it's us now, it's OK. But when in opposition, the Labour Party would have never supported this. So my thing is, be consistent. Be consistent with your beliefs. It doesn't matter who's in government. Be consistent. And my thing is, it's all very well now saying, oh, you know, the Conservatives did it. Does it make it right? You know? Johnny stole the cookie, I'll steal the cookie, because it's just childish politics. And my thing is, I have no issue with having, you know, the House of Lords. My issue is it's unelected. I would like to have a say. the thing with the Labour Party is they scream, anti-nepotism, anti-cronyism, it's disgusting, the corruption that the Conservatives have done and all the rest of it. But that is exactly what we're seeing.
How?
What do you mean, how?
He hasn't appointed members of his family to the Lords. He hasn't appointed an ex-parliamentary system
for me,
like
this
Boris
is not.
Johnson
This is not even about political party. This is about seeing that the UK population is deeply unhappy with politics on both sides at the moment. Why are you just giving away a peerage? My thing is, in any other career in life, you have to work to be able to climb up the ladder.
What are you giving away peerage? Would you rather he sold it?
No, I think that we should be able to have a say to say, this is how it should be. This is how it should be. You were elected as MP. How did you favour when you were MP? Did you do a good job? Were you there for the people? And if the answer is no, you didn't do a good job, people were deeply unhappy with you, why should you get to swan in the House of Lords?
Well, but this is the system we have, and it's the system that is wrong.
OK, but it's wrong.
But the whole point is the government has a right to implement its agenda with a system that we have. But
not when that same government, that same government was massively critical of appointments that previous governments were making. But now they're in government. Oh, do you know what? It's our turn now. It's our turn.
The Labour Party was never critical of the Conservative government appointing peers. It was critical of the specific peers, such as Charlotte, what's her name, the former parliamentary assistant of Boris Johnson, who came from nowhere and now, aged less than 30, now has a seat in the legislature.
But if you look at Labour policy, if you look at Labour rhetoric, the whole anti-cronyism, anti-nepotism is the same thing what we're seeing now in appointing people to the House of Lords. Yes or no?
No.
Would you say how it's done is cronyism and reflective of nepotism?
I don't think it's nepotism. I mean, Keir Starmer's nephew isn't in there. Boris Johnson appoints his brother to the Lords.
You said reflective of nepotism.
No, I don't.
Yeah, nepotism. You don't have to be a blood relative. It's about who you know and getting someone in there that is close to you. That is the definition of it.
I haven't seen anyone on the Labour list of appointees to the Lords. And don't forget, the Tories have also.
Let me ask you this.
The Tories have also got 6 peers.
About them. We'll talk about them later, but we're talking about.
Would you say that your view is consistent now that Labour is in?
Of course. Look, if the Conservatives, after the Conservatives have come to office, if they had not had a majority in the Lords, I said even after Boris Johnson, who I can't stand, won election in 2019, I said fine, we're going to have Brexit. I hate it, but we're going to have it. They have the right to implement their agenda. If there had been a House of Lords that had been vastly skewed against that, for example, and had blocked Brexit from happening, I'd have thought that's actually not right.
But it's convenient that you said just a minute ago. It's convenient that you said, Labour said they were going to, whether abolish it or, overhaul it. Oh, but they don't have the time.
No,
they don't have the time now. They've got other things to do.
I think that they should do it. I said I can understand the reason they might have put it on the back burner, but I think they absolutely should do it. I think that was a bold announcement to make, and I strongly support.
So you do still support that it shouldn't be done. But if that's the case, then they shouldn't be.
I want us to be elected.
Okay, listen. But that's not the question, is it? I'm asking you whether Keir Starmer is out of touch with the people that he's appointed, and what do you think at home? gbnews.com/your say. I'd love to hear your thoughts. That's Lynn May and also political commentator Jonathan Liss. You're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online, and on digital radio. Coming up, it's time for the Great British Debate this hour, and I'm asking, have the Waspi women been betrayed? But first, let's get your latest news headlines with Sophia Wensler.
Nana, thank you. Good afternoon. These are your headlines at 3:31. At least 5 people, including a 9-year-old child, have been killed after a car drove into crowds at a Christmas market in Germany. The suspect, a 50-year-old Saudi doctor with reported Islamophobic views, has been arrested as Chancellor Olaf Scholz promises a full investigation. German prosecutors are saying the motive is still unclear, though the attacker's dissatisfaction of the treatment of Saudi refugees in Germany may have been a factor. Flowers have been laid at the scene ahead of a memorial service in the city's cathedral this evening. Our Home and Security Editor, Mark White, has been looking into the lone attacker believed to be behind the incident in Magdeburg.
He is a 50-year-old, originally from Saudi Arabia, who arrived in Germany in 2006 and claimed asylum, having fled Saudi Arabia, wanted by the Saudi authorities over allegations of rape and other criminal offences. However, the German authorities granted him refugee status in 2016 on human rights grounds.
Now, the deadline for pensioners to claim pension credit and secure their winter fuel payment is fast approaching. Online applications close at 11:59 p.m. and phone lines will be open until 3 o'clock this afternoon for last-minute calls. Around 760,000 pensioners could miss out, with the benefit topping up weekly incomes and unlocking extra support. The change announced by Rachel Reeves means winter fuel payments now go only to those on means-tested benefits, slashing recipients from 11.4 million to just 1.5 million. In other news, the Prince and Princess of Wales are funding a new programme to tackle mental health challenges in rural Norfolk communities. Partnering with Norfolk and Waveney Mind, the 2-year pilot will provide counselling and targeted support for the 1,500 residents around the Sandringham estate. Set to launch in 2025, the initiative will include training for local employers to address issues like rural isolation and farming-related pressures. It's hoped the project could become a blueprint for mental health support on other rural estates across the UK. Today, dubbed Super Saturday, is set to take the crown as the busiest shopping day of 2024, with footfall in UK stores expected to rise compared to last year. As last-minute shoppers swarm the aisles, the shift from online to in-store shopping is expected to peak, marking a key moment in the festive shopping season. Retailers are gearing up for a £2.5 billion spending spree, hoping to turn the holiday rush into a boost for the retail sector. But there's a twist. More shoppers are turning to discount brands, with 36% of Christmas spending expected to shift away from traditional retailers. Millennials are leading the charge, set to spend more than 40% of their festive budgets at discount stores like Aldi, B&M and Lidl. Those are the latest GB News headlines. More in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. We're looking ahead towards the Christmas week. It is set to turn much milder across the country, but before we get there, we have plenty of wind and cold weather out there for the rest of the weekend. That's all courtesy of this area low pressure, dragging in some very cold air from the north, and also note the isobars indicating some very windy weather too. So as we see at Saturday, plenty of showers around, especially across the northern half of the UK. Some of these showers will turn increasingly to sleet and snow, mainly across the high ground, but that may well lead to some icy stretches as we go through the course of the night. Also, wind warnings in force across many western and northern areas. So if you do have travel plans over the course of the weekend, do allow some extra time for your journeys. So as we start Sunday morning off, we will see some sunshine around, especially across East Anglia and the southeast of England. But further west, showers from the word go, and a very similar story across the north too. But here we will continue to see the risk of some sleet and snow, especially for the high ground of Scotland, where the winds will also remain very strong. Risk of gales, potentially severe gales, as we start Sunday morning in places. And really, for most of us, it is going to be a blustery day. And that wind really is going to make it feel bitterly cold right across the country. Best of any brightness really will be across the east, with the most frequent and heaviest showers continuing across Scotland, where again they will be of a wintry nature. So temperatures a little bit academic. These what we'll see on the thermometer, but factor in the strength of the wind, as I mentioned, it is going to be feeling much colder than this. Into the evening, very little changes across the north, still further sleet and snow showers around, but across the south a little bit quieter, with more in the way of dry and clearer weather developing. And then as we head towards the Christmas period, it does look like it's going to turn much milder, so the chances of snow at this stage very low.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
If you just tuned in, where have you been? It's fine. You've only missed the first 37 minutes, so it's all good. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We are Britain's news channel. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. And it's time now for the Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, have the Waspi women been betrayed? Pensions Secretary Liz Kendall is among those who have been pictured alongside campaigners in the past, holding signs backing their cause, but are now facing a backlash after it rejected compensation for women hit by changes to the state pension age. Why don't we hear from some Labour frontbenchers speaking on this topic in the past?
We've said we'll right that injustice, and within the 5 years of the Labour government, we will compensate them for the money that they've lost. This is their money that they've had stolen off them, and it's completely unacceptable.
I think it's completely unfair, and I want to keep fighting for a fair deal for the Waspi women.
Really? And here is Sir Keir Starmer speaking on the issue as Labour leader.
Real injustice, and we need to do something about it, Carol, because that wasn't the base upon which you paid in. That wasn't the basis upon which you were working. We've got a government that has basically put its fingers in its ears.
Can't wait to hear Jonathan Liss defend that. So the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, have the Waspi women been betrayed? That, of course, was political commentator Jonathan Liss, and joining me also Lynn May, political commentator as well. Jonathan?
OK, so I think there are two things to deal with on this particular issue. The first one is the... Well, no, if you let me finish, I'll tell you.
Got plenty of time.
The first one is the policy itself. Is it right to compensate the Waspi women? And the second one is, did Labour handle this appropriately? Did Labour give the Waspi women the false impression and that they were going to compensate them and then go against it in what is a very, and understandably for the Waspi women, does feel like a betrayal? I think... to deal with the second issue first... I was going to say, deal with that one first. Deal with the second issue first. So, for example, you had a clip there of Angela Rayner talking. That was before the 2019 election, when the Labour Party, and as we know, that was a disastrous clown show of a manifesto and prospectus of the government, which the voters rejected.
Come to the point.
OK, fine. So that was just a Labour throwing money, billions more pounds at that problem. So then also you had MPs after the 2019 election. You said, we want to have a fair deal for the Waspi women, but at no point did any senior Labour official or politician pledge a figure that they were going to give the Waspi women. And it wasn't included in the manifesto. But I do think it was... I'm trying to present a nuanced argument here. I think it was wrong for them to give the impression that they were going to help the women in a material way. That was a mistake. They should have been absolutely clear.
It's a complete...
What they did say was that they're going to look at it, and they've looked at it. And I think that in the context of conversations that we've been having over the last few months, Nana, when we know that money is very tight and there are very difficult decisions to be made, spending tens of billions of pounds potentially, or at least 10 billion
on carbon capture.
On compensating women who, and a lot of these women do have fair cases. A lot of them should have planned more effectively for their retirement.
Oh, come on, listen. I'm not asking whether they should have planned earlier for their retirement. I don't know whether it would be wise for Labour to dish out 10 billion. But what I do see is a party who said one thing and done the exact opposite.
But that's exactly what I was saying.
Hold on. And that is an utter disgrace. An utter disgrace. And it wasn't just one of them, it was loads of them. Getting behind campaigns, Yvette Cooper, there she was, all the Waspi women behind her, drunk on the power that she was feeling clearly that day, where everyone agreed with her and she agreed with them. And the others, the same thing. Angela Rayner sitting there all comfortably saying this is utter terrible, you know, giving it all that. And when they're in power, they've done the very opposite. Lynn May.
The thing is, I don't massively disagree with the decision,
no,
but what I absolutely disagree with, and I'm actually happy. I'm not happy, but I'm happy at the same time that people can now see that the opposition, when they're in power, what the stakes are. Because it's very easy to be somebody shouting at the pitch. You know, do this, do that, they're not doing... And the loaded language that Angela Rayner used, stolen. If something was stolen, if I were any of the Labour Party's advisors, I would say, based on the narrative, the conversations, the sheer disgust what's happened to the Waspi women, we have to give something. Yes, I understand them coming out and saying, you know, we don't have anything in the coffers. It's what, 10 billion? Far too much, we can't afford it. And I think many people that are sensible from an economic point of view understand that. But they can't just now say, sorry, you're not getting anything, after their conversation from 2019 up until today. And I think this is just, especially, how long have they been? Is it not even 6 months, is it?
6 months, not quite, no.
Not even 6 months. And the Labour Party have literally gone back. And they were very critical again of the Conservatives, the party of U-turns. Look how you failed to keep your promises. And they're doing the exact same thing in the first 6 months, not only on this, but on many promises.
I think that there would have been a fair compromise, that the Ombudsman suggested a payment of a limited amount to some of the women based on a maladministration that didn't cover the whole span of this time, but for a few years. I think that would have been a fair compromise for the government to go down. I can completely sympathise with what you're saying, and that it does obviously look like another U-turn. I think to give the what the government would say, what the government would say.
No, Jonathan. It is another U-turn. Listen,
They never pledged any money, Nana. They never pledged any money.
What was Angela Rayner's... What did she say?
That was 2019.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm speaking. I'm not bothered about the amount of money they pledged or any of that. I am concerned, and as I suspect most people listening and watching this are, that the Labour Party could be so staunchly behind something and then literally just turn away, because then you don't know what you're dealing with. You don't know what you've got. And whilst at least the Conservative Party now, I'm not supporting them for any of the work. They were terrible. But at least on this, they said, we're not going to give you the money, and people may well have voted specifically for the Labour Party on the strength of that promise.
If any woman was voting for the Labour Party out of this issue, I think that would have been misguided, because there was no manifesto commitment whatsoever. Look, if there had been
they're not misguided when you've seen
if there had been a manifesto commitment,
the leader of the party saying that he's going to do it. Angela Rayner standing there behind
that was 2019.
Yvette Cooper.
That was 2019
yeah, but they're all saying it. They were all saying it.
They weren't. There was a couple of comments made over the span of a 5-year parliament, and it was not mentioned in the manifesto. You know, you have to look at the manifesto.
Winter fuel payments not mentioned in the manifesto.
Well, that's a perfectly fair criticism, and I've said to you many times, the winter fuel payment, I'm completely opposed to that.
I think
the thing is, I think it's
reasonable for them for people watching that to think that the Labour Party will be supporting it.
And I think it's concerning, because even though it was back in 2019, the Labour Party have been so critical. You would think that they would know what exactly they're going to do when they come into power. So how can you have these ardent views about what we're going to do and what the Conservatives failed to do, and we're for the working people, we're for women, we're for this, we're for that, and then you come into power and like, well, actually, we can't really do that anymore.
Any of it.
Well, look...
Right, listen, hold on, we'll come back to you, but if you're in search for some winter sun, then here's the forecast for some of those top European holiday destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Storm Dino so clears, but it remains often cloudy and sometimes windy around coastal areas, particularly for the Canary Islands and Madeira. A fairly strong northwesterly flow dragging in some cloud and some outbreaks of rain at times. Fairly settled across Portugal and Spain, but as we move further east, cloudy with some showers at times, particularly for Rome and at times parts of Greece. But it generally looks like it's improving by the time we reach the middle of the week, with the best of the temperatures across Madeira.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
To be fair, you might as well stay here because the weather's going to be quite warm for Christmas. There's no chance of snow. But coming up, it's The Pulse. I'm going to be talking about an extraordinary story that Alzheimer's may, in many cases, be caused by the herpes virus. But basically, it travels from the gut to the brain. You won't want to miss that. Find out more in a moment.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
British 10-year-old has beaten Stephen Hawking and Albert Einstein in an IQ test, would you believe? Genius Krish Arora got the maximum score of 162, which puts him in the top 1% globally.
Goodness me. Well, Krish's parents noticed his brilliant potential after learning he could read fluently by the age of 4.
Krish, how does it feel to be a child genius?
I feel really happy and privileged.
Aww. Do you see it as a gift that you have?
Yeah.
Oh, that's just wonderful. Nichelle, what do you make of your child being a genius? When did it become apparent to you that Krish had something different, something special?
I think at the age of 4, he was doing things that were way beyond and above his age.
Yeah.
He could read fluently and he could spell correctly, and he was doing complex decimal divisions. So we thought that he's on to something. I think there's a spark out here.
Wow. And how are you reading books, Krish? Did you just pick them up from your mum and dad's bookshelf and just start reading to yourself?
We used to go to the library and we got books.
Such a good tip. Such a good tip as parents.
Yeah.
Head to the library, take your kids to the library.
So, Nichelle, can Krish just do it all? Is he just an all-rounder genius? Every subject, every talent, he can do it all?
Absolutely, and he helps out the family as well. He's been teaching me grade 1 piano, and he hopes, and I repeat, he hopes that I'm going to complete it in 12 months' time. And he also helps out Mum, because when Mum is teaching his sister, Mum sometimes says, Krish, go solve that problem and, help your sister out. So, yes, he can do it all.
Krish, you're a superstar.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Jubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Now listen, according to a new study, Alzheimer's may sometimes be caused by the herpes virus that travels from the gut to the brain. Scientists in the US have found evidence of infections in the post-mortem of brains of people who've died with the disease. And they think that it may be to blame for up to 45% of the cases. Well, joining me now is pharmacist Thorin Govind. Thorin, tell us a bit more about this.
OK, well, 70% of people have dementia in care homes, so we know that this is something that needs to be tackled, and Alzheimer's is a form of dementia. This is the cytomegalovirus, and most people have actually had this. Over half of people have had this by the age of 40, this virus. So I'm descending down in my chair, bear with me. So what we're saying here is that most people don't even know they've had it, but with this virus, it lies dormant in your body, and then it becomes active. And what they're saying is this virus impacts the immune system and contributes to how the brain communicates. So what happens is you get protein deposits of things called amyloid plaques, and they disrupt how the brain organises itself. And through this study, what we've seen here is that some of the drugs, has got some drugs which have been rejected by NICE, which do actually clear these amyloid plaques.
Really?
Yeah. And what we also know about this is they are working on a blood test and what they want to be able to do with that is to identify the type of chronic intestinal infections that develop so that they can then see how those end up in the brain.
Wow. But they've got drugs to get rid of these plaques anyway, which they should be using.
Well,
why are they not using them?
So what they were looking at there is the evidence behind it. NICE haven't been happy with that. So that's one of the issues. But what we know is there's been a lot of research when it comes to the immune system and how that impacts the development of Alzheimer's. And as we heard there, 45% of cases is what this study's looked into.
So almost half.
Yeah.
Definitely the government should be investing in that. The way they did with COVID. You know, the way everyone got together and found a way of dealing with that, if they know this, they should be sorting that out, because otherwise a lot of us will be losing our houses to pay for our care, pretty much.
55 million people are living with dementia worldwide.
Wow.
And a third of people need carers for that. So the amount of the human burden on this condition is immense. And the fact that it's now going to, as I say, a third of people who are born this year will end up developing dementia.
Crazy.
The care home situation as it is.
They need to do something about it.
They do need to do something
about it.
And
I think this is a start. This is a big clue for them. And, you know, I think that the government should be looking at trying to sort this out. But now, I want to tell you about Bonnie Blue. She's coming live into the studio.
Yes, she is. Yeah.
She's the lady that slept with many, many men, young men. For her, she works as a social media influencer. Now, there's another girl who also did the same thing. I'm concerned about the level of protection these girls will have. How dangerous is what they're doing?
OK, well, let's set a starting point, Nana. I just want to say, to me, that it's consensual is at the heart of this. And what we know is that, obviously, without a state, there's no point. I'm not going to tell you how to... we've got to make sure that, obviously, the pregnancy risk there, but there's still the risk of oral sex. Oral sex isn't the most risky type of sexual interaction, but you can get chlamydia from that, which is a bacterially transmitted disease. We've got genital warts, gonorrhea, herpes. Once a year, you should be getting some sort of sexual health test. I would say that to everyone. And when you have new partners, I'm not sure how she's able to do that if there's so many partners so quickly.
But if you're protecting yourself, a lot of them say, oh, we're using condoms, it's fine. They don't protect against everything, do they?
No, exactly that. So exactly, you've got that risk of chlamydia through oral sex and the genital herpes. You can get cold sore virus as well. And again, that herpes 1 is the cold sore. Herpes 2 is the genital situation. And you can end up with that spreading. I would say as well, for people, it can take up to 7 weeks for a sexually transmitted disease to actually show. So that's another risk.
Very dangerous indeed. All right. Thank you very much, Thorin Govind. You did it in time. Thank you so much. Really good to talk to you. That was pharmacist Thorin Govind. Stay with me, my niggle. I'm talking about the Labour government. They're full of hypocrites. Now, let's get an update with your weather.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. We're looking ahead towards the Christmas week. It is set to turn much milder across the country, but before we get there, we have plenty of wind and cold weather out there for the rest of the weekend. That's all courtesy of this area low pressure, dragging in some very cold air from the north, and also note the isobars indicating some very windy weather too. So as we see at Saturday, plenty of showers around, especially across the northern half of the UK. Some of these showers will turn increasingly to sleet and snow, mainly across the high ground, but that may well lead to some icy stretches as we go through the course of the night. Also, wind warnings in force across many western and northern areas. So if you do have travel plans over the course of the weekend, do allow some extra time for your journeys. So as we start Sunday morning off, we will see some sunshine around, especially across East Anglia and the southeast of England. But further west, showers from the word go, and a very similar story across the north too. But here we will continue to see the risk of some sleet and snow, especially for the high ground of Scotland, where the winds will also remain very strong. Risk of gales, potentially severe gales, as we start Sunday morning in places. And really, for most of us, it is going to be a blustery day. And that wind really is going to make it feel bitterly cold right across the country. Best of any brightness really will be across the east, with the most frequent and heaviest showers continuing across Scotland, where again they will be of a wintry nature. So temperatures a little bit academic. These what we'll see on the thermometer, but factor in the strength of the wind, as I mentioned, it is going to be feeling much colder than this. Into the evening, very little changes across the north, still further sleet and snow showers around, but across the south a little bit quieter, with more in the way of dry and clearer weather developing. And then as we head towards the Christmas period, it does look like it's going to turn much milder, so the chances of snow at this stage very low.
We can expect clear skies, leading to a light and warm day ahead. Lovely. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Imagine getting the call to tell you that you've won £50,000 in tax-free cash, our biggest cash prize of the year.
Oh my God.
That's a big surprise.
Oh my God. This is amazing.
I'm in shock.
I'd say don't hesitate, do it.
For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Well, let's speak now to Sales Director at Savills for Quinta Properties, Raquel Santos, who is live for us in Portugal. Raquel, good to see you this morning. Why are all these celebrities flocking to Portugal all of a sudden?
Yeah, I guess it's just because of basically the great lifestyle that we have, security, Portugal has kind of been a hidden, tucked away gem for quite a while that people didn't realize existed. And with the international flights that, the American flights coming in, it's kind of been put back on the map as a country that's worth visiting and worth investing in due to the secure investments that we offer in real estate.
Raquel, is it anything to do with tax rates? Because I think capital gains tax is, I think if it's over a certain amount, you pay half of your rate, which is 28%. Capital gains on shares and cryptocurrencies is 0. Is it anything to do with that? Because over here in the UK, big storm at the moment about millionaires apparently leaving in exodus because of the mooted increases in taxes in just a few weeks.
Yes, so obviously the alterations that are happening with the UK in terms of the tax that's being implemented on the capital gains, as you mentioned, we've definitely noticed has become a big drive, mostly on the vendor side as well, who are looking to sell because they don't want to be hit, with these higher capital gains, which is close to coming into effect.
Raquel, have you noticed then millionaires, high net worth people from the UK getting in touch with you looking to relocate?
Definitely. It's for multiple reasons, obviously, the changes that are due to come into place, obviously, and Portugal just seems to be a safe option always when things do kind of change. People opt to come into Portugal because we're quite steady, we're quite stable.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. And for the next few hours, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me for the next few hours, political commentator Lynn May, and also political commentator Jonathan Liss. It's now being confirmed that 5 people, including a child, have died after a car drove into crowds at the German Christmas market. City officials say over 200 people were injured, and the suspect, a 50-year-old Saudi doctor, is believed to have acted alone. We'll bring you the latest throughout. Then, coming up, do you believe Nigel Farage could run the economy? Chancellor Rachel Reeves has launched a scathing attack on him and claims the Reform leader hasn't got a clue. So I've got a pull up on X asking you that very question. Do you believe that Nigel Farage could run the economy? Cast your vote. Then, in Difficult Conversations, adult content creator Bonnie Blue will be live in the studio. Now, she has become one of the most controversial figures this year by engaging in sexual marathons. Coming up next, though, my niggle, are the Labour Party an absolute bunch of hypocrites?
And replacing the unelected House of Lords with a new, smaller, democratically elected second chamber.
Really? And in clickbait, this anti-Keir Starmer parody song has reached #1 in the download charts. Let's have a listen.
It'll be freezing this Christmas while Keir Starmer's warm.
But before we get started, let's get your latest news with Sophia Wensler.
Nana, thank you. It's just gone 4 o'clock. These are your headlines. At least 5 people, including a 9-year-old child, have been killed after a car drove into crowds at a Christmas market in Germany. The suspect, a 50-year-old Saudi doctor with reported Islamophobic views, has been arrested and faces charges of murder and attempted murder as Chancellor Olaf Scholz promises a full investigation. German prosecutors are saying the motive is still unclear, though the attackers' dissatisfaction of the treatment of Saudi refugees in Germany may have been a factor. Flowers have been laid at the scene ahead of a memorial service in the city's cathedral this evening. Our Home and Security editor, Mark White, has been looking into the lone attacker believed to be behind the incident in Magdeburg.
He is a 50-year-old, originally from Saudi Arabia, who arrived in Germany in 2006 and claimed asylum, having fled Saudi Arabia, wanted by the Saudi authorities over allegations of rape and other criminal offences. However, the German authorities granted him refugee status in 2016 on human rights grounds.
Now, time is running out for pensioners to claim pension credit and secure their winter fuel payment for 2024-2025, with the deadline just hours away. Online applications close at 11:59 p.m. and phone lines will be open until 3 o'clock this afternoon for last-minute calls. Around 760,000 pensioners could miss out, with the benefit topping up weekly incomes and unlocking extra support. The change announced by Chancellor Rachel Reeves means winter fuel payments now go only to those on means-tested benefits, slashing recipients from 11.4 million to just 1.5 million. Scrap staff parking charges. That's the call from unions, as new research reveals 1 in 4 NHS trusts in England have raised fees for patients, staff, or both in the last year. Patient charities say the charges unfairly penalise unwell people, while NHS leaders argue financial pressures leave trusts little choice but to charge. The rises, often targeting city centre hospitals, have seen higher earners pay more, while NHS staff collectively spent over £70 million on parking last year. Unions say health workers are on their knees and need support, not extra costs, as they face the strain of chronic understaffing and the fallout from the pandemic. The Department of Health insists fees are locally set but must be reasonable. In other news, crowds across the Northern Hemisphere have been gathering from early on this morning to get a sight of the winter solstice, marking the shortest day and longest night of the year. In London, there's just under 8 hours of daylight, with sunrise at 8:04 and sunset at 3:53 p.m, and even less for people further north. The solstice signals the return of longer days and is celebrated worldwide, from pagan Yule festivals to modern traditions inspired by ancient customs. Events at Stonehenge are among the most iconic, drawing thousands to witness the so-called rebirth of the sun. Wherever you are, today's daylight is less than half of what we'll see on the longest day of the year. And cash tops the list of Christmas gifts for young adults, a new survey has shown. Nearly half of 16 to 24-year-olds prefer cash, with 40% happy to receive a voucher and 36% open to a bank transfer. A third would even like a direct payment into their savings account, while a fifth would still welcome a cheque. But across all age groups, gift cards and vouchers remain the most popular choice for financial gifts. As Christmas falls midweek, experts say cash machines will be even busier this year, with customers set to withdraw around £1.5 billion in just 1 week. And wet, windy and wild, Christmas travel plans for millions could be blown off course this weekend. Yellow weather warnings for wind cover much of the UK, with gusts of up to 80 miles an hour forecast for Scotland and northern coastal areas. The Met Office says road, rail and ferry disruption is likely as millions hit the roads. Friday expected to be the busiest travel day since records began in 2010. Showers could bring snow and icy conditions to parts of Scotland, with strong winds making Sunday's journeys exhausting, according to the RAC. Winds will ease by Monday, but a mild and cloudy Christmas is on the cards for most of the UK. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now it's back to Nana.
Thank you, Sophia. Welcome on board. If you just tuned in, where have you been? Just coming up to 7 minutes after 4 o'clock. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We are Britain's news channel. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Keir Starmer and his party, the flip-floppers. Only they flip-flop on the wrong things. What utter hypocrites they've all turned out to be. Here's Sir Keir Starmer telling us how dead set against the House of Lords he is.
Rebuild trust by reforming the centre of government, cleaning up sleaze, nourishing the relationship between central government and the devolved authorities, and replacing the unelected House of Lords with a new, smaller, democratically elected second chamber.
Yet he's quite happy to dish out peerages to Sue Gray. Remember her, the supposed neutral civil servant in charge of the Partygate investigation? Only she was in talks with Sir Keir Starmer. The date of which these talks started is unclear. Then, mysteriously, she becomes his wing woman, being paid more than him, until she's unceremoniously relieved of her duties for a made-up role that she never participates in. And now, suddenly, she gets a peerage. It's laughable. Nothing to see here. I thought he was dead set against the House of Lords. But hey-ho, he's prone to flip-flopping. They're all guilty. Here they are in support of the Waspi women.
You said we'll right that injustice, and within the 5 years of the Labour government, we will compensate them for the money that they've lost. This is their money that they've had stolen off them, and it's completely unacceptable.
I think it's completely unfair, and I want to keep fighting for a fair deal for the Waspi women.
A real injustice, and we need to do something about it, Carol, because that wasn't the base upon which you paid in. That wasn't the basis upon which you were working. We've got a government that has basically put its fingers in its ears.
So how come suddenly you don't want to be part or take part or even part with another 10 billion? After all, you've been chucking it down a supposed black hole with ludicrous carbon capture that has failed and cost a fortune everywhere it's ever been tried, money for climate nonsense and dishing out cash to farmers in other countries, whilst our farmers here are dropped an inheritance tax time bombshell, despite being promised support when Labour were in opposition. Can a party be held to account for what could be seen as deceiving people? Because that's how I feel about it. Worse still, rather than accepting their policies are a disaster thus far and that they have had a start that even their ardent supporters would argue has to be one of the worst in history for any government, Sir Keir Starmer wouldn't change a thing.
But is there anything that you would do differently if you were starting out now, knowing what you know?
No, we had to do tough stuff. We're getting on with it, and I'm very pleased to be delivering from a position of power rather than going around the division lobbies losing every night. I've had too much of that.
Unbelievable. No contrition, no empathy or remorse whatsoever. They're pressing ahead regardless. That's what we're dealing with, folks, and there's another 5 years of it. Merry Christmas. But before we get stuck into the debates, here's what else is coming up today. It's been confirmed that 5 people, including a child, have died after a car drove into crowds at a German Christmas market. City officials say over 200 people were injured, and the suspect, a 50-year-old Saudi doctor, is believed to have acted alone. I will bring you the latest throughout the show. Then, for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, do you believe Nigel Farage could run the economy? Chancellor Rachel Reeves claims the Reform leader hasn't got a clue. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, do you believe Nigel Farage could actually run the economy? Then at 4:45, it's Royal Roundup time, and on the menu is Prince Andrew, who yet again is in trouble. What do you think he's up to these days? We'll be finding out. That's coming up in the next hour. As ever, send me your thoughts, post your comments, gbnews.com/your say. So joining me now, former editor of the Labour list, Peter Edwards. Peter, sometimes you want the Labour Party to flip-flop on something that is clearly unworkable. They don't. But then they kind of appear to be big hypocrites on other things. So the Waspi women, for example.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if your critique was that Labour didn't have a mandate for particular changes, or do you think they should accomplish everything within 5 months, even though they've been elected for 5 years? But on the Waspi women, it's an injustice. I think Labour in opposition accept it was an injustice. It's quite an expensive one to fix. The recommendation of the Independent Parliamentary Commission was about a £10 billion cost, but perhaps there's something in the middle, you know, between doing nothing, which is free, and the full cost of 10 billion. But the idea that you spend your time when there's so much else going on in Britain and around the world and try and find a pragmatic solution doesn't seem unreasonable.
But then I get this, and I think my issue, and I think a lot of the issues that people are having with it, is that they said one thing when they were in opposition, and then they have completely turned around and are doing the very, very opposite.
Well, I don't accept that. So
You don't accept that?
On Waspi women, Labour in opposition said there was an injustice and they tried to resolve it, and they still can resolve it. There was one proposal by the Parliamentary Commission for Standards that they said is currently a bit too expensive, but that doesn't mean there aren't other proposals. Similarly, on the House of Lords, which you were very frustrated about, but every government appoints peers to try and rebalance the chamber. The Tories have had a majority in the House of Lords unelected for many, many, many decades. So a new government, which is Labour, tries to address that. That's kind of politics as usual.
You think so, but when you're saying that you kind of want to get rid of hereditary peers, which is the plan, but then you are now filling it with people who fit your own, rhetoric and your own point of view, that's not really... It's more to do with the fact that you are wanting to get rid of these people, and then you're going to put other people in, your own cronies in. It just doesn't...
I think that's a bit of a cul-de-sac. I mean, every party appoints peers which are of their own... political colour. The Tories have appointed their own supporters. The Lib Dems have appointed a couple of peers. So, parties appointing people who are sympathetic to their values to the House of Lords has been going on for centuries.
But we played the clip of what Keir Starmer was saying, and again, he's coming in doing something completely opposite.
No, I don't accept that. It's still Labour policy to change how the House of Lords work, and I think there's a fantastic case for getting rid of it in its current form. Gordon Brown, the former Prime Minister, did a report. I think he demanded... an assembly of the nations and the regions, i.e. something that was representative and had a bit of independent expertise but wasn't reliant on the power of patronage, which is what we've got across all the main parties at the moment, powers of patronage.
If you're changing the way something which is a democratic thing operates, then if you want to do that, in my view, you should have some sort of referendum to ask the people of this country whether they want you to change it in that way, because that will then change the face of how we operate in terms of law, how laws get passed and all that, which is quite a big deal for one party to go in and do.
Well, you said let's potentially have a referendum on changing a democratic thing, but the House of Lords is not a democratic thing. That's the whole point. It's not democratic.
But it's about the order of democracy, how our democracy operates. And the House of Lords is one of those elements that works within our democracy. So if you're changing how that democracy operates as a democracy, then you need to make a democratic vote. That's my point. Not that the House of Lords...
It's in the Labour manifesto.
I'm quite happy for the House of... Well, they did things that aren't in the Labour manifesto, but that's irrelevant. I think if you are affecting something in terms of how a democratic thing operates, which are the Houses of Parliament and the House of Lords, they are how our democracy operates. You cannot just simply go and just change it all in your favour like that.
Well, they're not. I mean, Labour said before the general election, we want to abolish the House of Lords in its current form.
Exactly.
The public said, yes, please, voted Labour in, and it's still Labour policy.
No, I don't think the public said yes, please, and voted Labour in. You know and I know that they were, at the time, we thought the lesser of all the evils that were available in our first part, in our kind of electoral system. Unfortunately, only 30% of the population went out to vote. So in our democratic system, that is the one we operate within. But I think that when they are there, if they're going to plan to change something that is part of the actual democratic workings of this country, the people of the country should have an absolute say about that one specific issue, because you can put lots of things in, 90% of the things people could agree with, but there'll be some things in there they don't. And I think it's important when that one thing is something that affects the actual democracy of this country, that it is out to the public to also...
Well, often people poo-poo referenda saying that's why I elected government. My opposition is slightly different, which is I think people don't care. I've been a parliamentary candidate twice for Labour. The House of Lords has never, ever come up on all the doors I've knocked on. People just don't care enough.
That's not the point. That's not the point whether it's come up on the doors or not. It doesn't mean people don't care. It just means that right now people are thinking of other things. But if you are going to change something like that and you put that to the forefront, then people will care.
Well, last time we had a referendum on a democratic procedure, i.e. the voting system, in the Cameron-Clegg coalition years, the turnout was very low. So again, that tells me people don't really care.
Well, maybe then they didn't, but you have to admit that the political landscape has changed and people are way more engaged in politics. I mean, you
turnout's
can see...
declining.
No, well, turnout's declining probably because the options that we're given are so bad that it's just not even worth it because they're all so bad.
How can be people more engaged if turnout's declining? I always vote, but I'm perhaps increasingly anomalous. Sadly, there is disengagement, and that's shown by the fact general election turnout is declining.
Yeah, well, I don't disagree there, but I just think that that's because the options that we had this time were so poor that it was just almost a non... I mean, I have to... In my own way of voting, I was like, ugh. And I knew that the one that I'd probably vote for wouldn't do well simply for the way our electoral system works.
I think people are tired. Most of the country are poorer. They've lost faith in politics. And to be fair, that's across the parties. It would be juvenile for me to say, oh, it's all the wicked Tories. People are losing faith in Westminster politics full stop. And that's a really sad thing. And that's due to distance and money and living standards and massive decline in public services. And we can probably devote a whole another hour to talking about why that's the case.
OK, well, finally, because we're going to talk about this, do you think Nigel Farage will do better with the economy than Rachel Reeves?
No, I don't think so, because I think Nigel Farage is deeply ideological, and whatever you feel about Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer, they are very pragmatic and they're quite sensible. I think we'd be in the era of, you know...
Sensible?
Yes.
Sensible.
And I think Nigel Farage is very ideological.
Biting the hand that feeds? Getting rid of winter fuel allowance?
Well, the deficit's £83 billion. And no one who criticises the winter fuel cuts has ever come up with an alternative.
Well, just change it, that's all. You know, maybe, raise the threshold. Yes, but you're encouraging them to go there, encouraging them to go for pension credit, which would actually, if everyone did it, would cost them more anyway, so... I don't know.
Well, we don't know that. And to be a boring economist, you need to factor in things like behavioural change. But I don't want to send your viewers to sleep.
No, please don't.
Any more than I have already.
Peter Edwards, thank you very much. That's Peter Edwards, former editor of The Labour List. You're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Don't forget as well, you can also stream the show live on YouTube or download the GB News app. Coming up, it's time for the Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, do you believe that Nigel Farage could run the economy?
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Penelope's, which is situated in the sophisticated hotel Armano in Covent Garden, delivers punchy dishes from the executive chef Fez Ozalgan. London-born, she's of Turkish Cypriot heritage, and at the tender age of 16, she enrolled at catering college. So, it's lovely to see you, Fez. Welcome to the programme.
Thank you.
So you're now in a very prestigious position. I'm always impressed that in the world of chefing, it's possible to get to very senior positions quite young, if you're good enough. Talent is rewarded, is it not?
Definitely, yeah. It does take a lot of hard work, for sure. But, yes.
When did you know that you wanted to be a chef?
Honestly, because my parents have a cafe in Barking. And I used to go there when I was younger in school holidays and weekends to help them. And actually, I'll be honest, I just used to really admire everyone calling my dad chef, and that's what I wanted.
And what about your food inspirations? Because I believe the food that you produce now is what? Mediterranean influenced and also to some extent Middle East influenced?
Yeah, and Spanish as well at Penelope's, yeah. So our concept at Penelope's, our CEO, Ariel, he is Israeli, but he grew up in Marbella. So,
These are the great influences.
Yeah.
What have you brought here today?
OK, so we have our sea bream tartare, which is a really good inspiration of both Spanish and Israeli. It's marinated with harissa, and it's served with a really nice gazpacho sauce, caviar on top.
I wonder whether the camera can see that. It is the most gorgeous coloured sauce on top of my sea bream tartare. That's marvellous.
GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Good afternoon, 22 minutes after 4 o'clock. This is GB News. We are Britain's news channel. I'm Nana Akua. Welcome if you've just tuned in. It's time now for the first great British debate of this hour. I'm asking, do you believe that Nigel Farage could run the economy? One person who doesn't think so is Chancellor Rachel Reeves, who in an interview with The Guardian launched a scathing attack on the reforms offer to voters, saying that Nigel Farage hasn't got a clue. But as the economy shrinks and inflation rises, is she really the person to be saying this? Why don't we have a listen and remind ourselves of what our Chancellor said when she was slating the Tories over the national insurance increases in 2021 when she was the shadow Chancellor.
Despite all of their election promises to cut national insurance contributions, they're actually raising them against the strong advice of business and trades unions. The Conservative government's actions will make each new recruit more expensive and increase the costs to business. The decision to saddle employers and workers with the jobs tax takes money out of people's pockets when our economic recovery is not yet established or secure, and only adds to the pressure on businesses.
Which she obviously clearly knows, and she's done exactly that. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, do you believe Nigel Farage could run the economy? Joining me now, political commentator Lynn May and also political commentator Jonathan Less. Lynn May.
Well, what do we call it? Brass neck? Like the front of her having such criticism towards Nigel Farage. And it's like, is this the Rachel Reeves who released the budget where the Bank of England have actually downgraded the forecast from 0.3 to 0? Is this the Rachel Reeves that the Bank of England has said she's killing growth? I don't know how someone can be so tone deaf to accuse anyone of not having a clue financially, where that's exactly what it seems like she has, not a clue.
Jonathan Less.
Well, I don't think that we can judge the Labour Party's economic record based on 5 or 6 months in office. We can have this conversation 2 years and we can see how the economy has fared until then. There are many different sort of forecasts.
Why 2 years?
Well, 2 years, 3 years. I mean, it just takes a long time for economic change to bed in.
If you're making changes and people are telling you that they're doing this and that and the other, and you've specifically said that it will, what you're just doing will crash the economy and be more for businesses. then you're going to do it. Then
no, the economy is
why do
not under no metric has the economy crashed.
No, it's crashing, isn't it?
No, it's not.
Well, what do you call zero? That we were the fastest growing in the G7 prior to Labour taking office, and now we're not. Well, it's as simple as that.
That was also based on different metrics.
What was it based on?
Depending on where you start.
Which metrics?
You can say that depending on where you start the period in which you're measuring growth. I mean, if you're doing it based on 1 year or 7 years,
isn't it, Jonathan?
I am saying, Nana, that it is very difficult to run the economy if there was a silver bullet and then any government.
We all know that.
Should we do something else as basic? Let's do something else as basic that is concerning. What about the black hole, which actually wasn't 20 billion?
Well, the OBR actually supported reason.
No, they said it was 9.
They said
it was half.
Like if a letter that said there was a significant black hole.
It wasn't 20. It wasn't 20 billion.
The original letter said that it was 22 billion.
No,
the guide. Look, I actually don't believe in the idea of black holes anyway. Because
neither do we.
We have a.
Seems like they don't either.
I'm not here to defend Rachel Reeves. I'm here to give you my opinion.
Okay.
And black holes are something fabricated because based on the idea of a national economy being like a household budget or being like someone's credit card. You have a certain amount of credit, and if you maxed out, then you're in trouble. But we also have our own currency. We have our own central bank. We can borrow money. We can do all kinds of stuff. But you asked me about black holes.
No, we didn't ask you. No, I didn't ask you about that. I'm asking you about Rachel Reeves.
You actually asked me about Nigel.
Accusing Nigel Farage of not having a clue.
I'm asking you about Rachel Reeves because I specifically pointed to the fact that she talked about this awfulness about raising national insurance, has done exactly the same thing, and then she's saying that Nigel Farage can't run the economy.
Well, to be fair, it's apples and pears a little bit because when she was in 2021, she was criticising a national insurance rise on employees and the self-employed, and that was in the manifesto, Labour's manifesto. They weren't going to increase that, and they didn't, but they did increase employer contributions to national insurance, which is different. I'm not saying that
sorry. She specifically said that raising national insurance without being whether it's employees or employees, and actually it does always end up falling on the employee anyway. But she specifically said that it's a jobs tax. Now, whether it's on the employee or the employer, it doesn't matter. It's a jobs tax, and she knows that, and she said it. That's the point.
It is on the employee, and I can tell you how. I'm an employee. I work via an umbrella company. There's thousands of us. My NI has gone up over 1,000.
Exactly.
And I'm an employee. I don't own a business. So this whole idea that, we're for the working people, we're not going to attack those who are working, we're not going to attack those who are employees. As I've said, I am, and many like me are.
Why is our national insurance gone up if you're an employee? Because they haven't increased it.
Because I'm a contractor. I work under an umbrella company. So there's a vast number of us, which many people don't seem to know or remember, and we've been hit by these same increases. So what do you say to someone like me?
I don't understand if you're not an employer.
But listen, the point is that the NI hike does fall on
working people,
on employees, and not just the employer. I'm sorry, let me finish. When I say something, you both talk over the end of my words, and I've been polite to listen to both of yours. So the point that I'm making is that the NI hike does not just affect the employer, even though it's levied on the employer, it will affect the employee, and that's what Lynn May is saying. And Rachel knows it because that's what Rachel has said. It's a jobs tax. And I'm asking, as she criticises Nigel Farage, why, if she's saying he can't run an economy, neither can she.
Well, she's been in, as I said, she's been in charge for 6 months. She's made some decisions that have been unpopular, and there are some decisions that may stand her in better stead.
Do you think the Bank of England's wrong then for downgrading based on her budget, downgrading our financial forecast of growth based on what she has done in her budget? Do you think they're wrong?
I'm not sure that it's entirely as a result of the budget, and there are different measures of the economy that are doing quite well. So last week, the pound hit the highest level against the euro since the Brexit referendum, for example. Now, either we say that every single good thing is because of external factors and every bad thing is because of the Chancellor, or we say the economy is a massive behemoth and that the Chancellor can affect some of it and not all of it. So, for example, when we talk about inflation, for example...
Now I know what you look like, a behemoth. So is that suit?
But the question, Nana, is whether Nigel Farage would do any better. And I can tell you for nothing, this man does not have an economic bone in his body.
But that's why he's getting people that are economically savvy.
The migration and Brexit, sorry?
Do you know, where I would agree with you is I think he's a brilliant front man and maybe he's not that savvy, but I think he's garnering the right people that are massively successful. They understand business and they understand people who are in business. Would you not agree?
They're multi-millionaires, a lot of them. That doesn't make...
Well, many people are self-made. Are you criticising millionaires?
So is Keir Starmer. So are some of the people on the Labour front bench. You know what I mean? Liz Kendall, her husband, is incredibly rich. She's quite well off as well. They live in Notting Hill. You know, we're not talking about that. What she's talking about are that there are a lot of business people behind Nigel Farage who understand the economy. Name one person on Labour's front bench who has run a business.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think there are a lot of business people on the front bench.
Zero.
Well, fine. But
and that's what makes Britain go round, you know? British business.
It's not the only measure of being able to run an economy, and she has been an economist as well.
I think we need to go and look again at her LinkedIn.
Oh, should we go and have a look? Her CV, economist.
Admin. Well, listen, what do you think? GBNews.com/your say. But during Advent, as we count down to Christmas Day, we're hearing from church ministers across the country, and each day they have a special message for you to celebrate the festive season. Have a listen.
The GB News Advent Calendar, Day 21.
Hi, I'm Richard England, Vicar of Crofton Parish. It's just about the shortest day of the year. From here, imperceptibly, the days will start to get longer. There's quite a lot of winter left, but eventually the light will start to push out the dark. The Christmas story, like the turning of the seasons, reminds us that we are never hopeless. The first Christmas occurred in a world full of darkness, full of violence and oppression, a world longing for a brighter day. The star shining in the night pointed to a source of hope in our lives beyond our circumstances. If the Christmas story is true, then we're not alone in life. Whatever long nights of grief or sorrow we go through, there is another with us, for us, whose light and love can lead us through the darkest moments of our lives. Things may seem dark in your life, in our world. The nights may feel endless, but morning always comes. Light always returns.
Oh, bless, I love those. And you can see all of our special Advent messages as Christmas approaches by visiting gbnews.com/Advent. Merry Christmas to one and all. You're with me, I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. It's 32 minutes after 4 o'clock. Coming up in the Great British Debate, I'm asking about the leaders and the selections and the appointments to the House of Lords. But first, let's get your latest news headlines with Sophia Wensler.
Nana, thank you. Your headlines at 4:32. At least 5 people, including a 9-year-old child, have been killed after a car drove into crowds at a Christmas market in Germany. The suspect, a 50-year-old Saudi doctor with reported Islamophobic views, has been arrested and faces charges of murder and attempted murder. German prosecutors are saying the motive is still unclear, though the attacker's dissatisfaction of the treatment of Saudi refugees in Germany may have been a factor. Flowers have been laid at the scene ahead of a memorial service in the city's cathedral this evening. Our Home and Security editor, Mark White, has been looking into the lone attacker believed to be behind the incident in Magdeburg.
He is a 50-year-old, originally from Saudi Arabia, who arrived in Germany in 2006 and claimed asylum, having fled Saudi Arabia, wanted by the Saudi authorities over allegations of rape and other criminal offences. However, the German authorities granted him refugee status in 2016 on human rights grounds.
The deadline for pensioners to claim pension credit and secure their winter fuel payment is fast approaching. Online applications close at 11:59 p.m. and phone lines will be open until 3 o'clock this afternoon for last-minute calls. Around 760,000 pensioners could miss out, with the benefit topping up weekly incomes and unlocking extra support. The change, announced by Rachel Reeves, means winter fuel payments now go only to those on means-tested benefits, slashing recipients from 11.4 million to just 1.5 million. In other news now, the Prince and Princess of Wales are funding a new programme to tackle mental health challenges in rural Norfolk communities. Partnering with Norfolk and Waveney Mind, the 2-year pilot will provide counselling and targeted support for the 1,500 residents around the Sandringham estate. Set to launch in 2025, the initiative will include training for local employers to address issues like rural isolation and farming-related pressures. It's hoped the project could become a blueprint for mental health support on other rural estates across the UK. And today, dubbed Super Saturday, is set to take the crown as the busiest shopping day of 2024, with footfall in the UK stores expected to rise compared to last year. A last-minute shoppers swarmed the aisles. The shift from online to in-store shopping is expected to peak, marking a key moment in the festive shopping season. Retailers are gearing up for a £2.5 billion spending spree, hoping to turn the holiday rush into a boost for the retail sector. But there's a twist. More shoppers are turning to discount brands, with 36% of Christmas spending expected to shift away from traditional retailers. Millennials are leading the charge, set to spend more than 40% of their festive budgets at discount stores like Aldi, B&M and Lidl. Those are the latest GB News headlines. More in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Well, looking ahead towards the Christmas week, it is set to turn much milder across the country. But before we get there, we have plenty of wind and cold weather out there for the rest of the weekend. That's all courtesy of this area low pressure, dragging in some very cold air from the north, and also note the isobars indicating some very windy weather too. So as we see at Saturday, plenty of showers around, especially across the northern half of the UK. Some of these showers will turn increasingly to sleet and snow, mainly across the high ground, but that may well lead to some icy stretches as we go through the course of the night. Also, wind warnings in force across many western and northern areas. So if you do have travel plans over the course of the weekend, do allow some extra time for your journeys. So as we start Sunday morning off, we will see some sunshine around, especially across East Anglia and the southeast of England. But further west, showers from the word go, and a very similar story across the north too. But here we will continue to see the risk of some sleet and snow, especially for the high ground of Scotland, where the winds will also remain very strong. Risk of gales, potentially severe gales, as we start Sunday morning in places. And really, for most of us, it is going to be a blustery day. And that wind really is going to make it feel bitterly cold right across the country. Best of any brightness really will be across the east, with the most frequent and heaviest showers continuing across Scotland, where again they will be of a wintry nature. So temperatures a little bit academic. These what we'll see on the thermometer, but factor in the strength of the wind, as I mentioned, it is going to be feeling much colder than this. Into the evening, very little changes across the north, still further sleet and snow showers around, but across the south a little bit quieter, with more in the way of dry and clearer weather developing. And then as we head towards the Christmas period, it does look like it's going to turn much milder, so the chances of snow at this stage very low.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date. Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Don't forget as well, coming up in about 21 minutes or so, Bonnie Blue will be joining us live in the studio. You remember her? But now it's time for the Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, is Peter Mandelson a good choice for US ambassador? Yesterday, Downing Street confirmed that Lord Peter Mandelson will be the next UK ambassador to the US, with Sir Keir Starmer saying the Labour grandee will bring unrivalled experience to the role and take our partnership with the US from strength to strength. But why don't we take a listen to Lord Mandelson's previous comments on President-elect Donald Trump?
With an American president who is little short of a white nationalist and racist. Even those who have a sneaking admiration for Donald Trump because of the strength of his personality nonetheless regard him as reckless and a danger to the world.
I'm sorry, but they're all at it, aren't they? Literally, everybody in this party, in this Labour Party, are at it. Oh, dear. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, is Peter Mandelson a good choice for US ambassador? Joining me now, political commentator Lynn May and political commentator Jonathan Liss.
Why do you say like that?
I'm sorry, I'm just laughing.
Don't laugh through my name.
Sorry.
Take it seriously.
I couldn't help myself. It was actually not at you, though. Not this time, anyway. Jonathan Liss, what do you think? Is he a good choice when you heard what he had to say?
Just on that last point, Nana, you had Trump's own vice president called him America's Hitler, OK? So a lot of people have made comments about Donald Trump that have not impacted their future relationship with Donald Trump. Well, that's
because he's made friends with them personally, and that's him showing contrition. But this is Peter Mandelson, who's going to be the US-UK ambassador.
Yes. Yeah. And I don't see what the difference is. He's obviously not going to go to the White House now and call Donald Trump a white nationalist and racist. Plenty of people, as I said, have said things about Trump in the past. Trump is a fact of life. He has become the president. That is a role that transcends an individual. And the UK obviously has to work with whoever is occupying the White House. That's a simple fact of life. So within those circumstances, you have to choose wisely. We have a current ambassador who is set to stand down in January, so she has to be replaced. It's completely normal for governments to appoint political ambassadors as well as ones who go through the diplomatic ranks. And so they've chosen someone who has a very good networking pedigree. Look, do I like Peter Mandelson? Not particularly. Do I agree with all of his politics? Absolutely not. Do I think that he's a very good networker who gets things done? 100%.
Great. Well, it's sort of like having to sort of eat humble pie, isn't it? This lot, they say stuff and then they've got to sort of backtrack every time.
I think it's quite funny that you said choose wisely, because it's one thing someone... as you said, Nana, criticising, you know, Trump and Trump reaching out or, you know, having a conversation and saying that's his choice to forgive, that's his choice to repair. But for us to appoint someone who has said those things, and recently the Trump team have said this is a moronic appointment.
Was it the Trump team? Wasn't his official spokesman or anything?
It is someone that is connected to Trump or his camp that have said that. And then we are so critical, doesn't matter what Trump thinks, we are so critical here in the UK of Russia at the moment. We are constantly coming out and saying we're supporting Ukraine. He has had huge ties to Russia. He was friends and continued to be around Epstein even after he was found to be, you know, a paedophile.
Do we know this? This is Peter, you're talking about Peter Mandelson?
Yes.
And we know this, we do.
He was around, yes.
How do we know this?
It's been with BBC, it's been on various media publications that we're supposed to trust. You know, so as far as unless he's come out and said it, when Keir Starmer was actually questioned a couple of days ago about this, he said, well, I don't know, I'm not clear on that. If you're appointing somebody as US ambassador and you're not clear on what that person has been doing, whether it comes to links to Russia, whether it comes to links to Epstein, do you not think that's a concern?
I think we have to be quite careful here. Has Mandelson been accused of any crime whatsoever in relation to Epstein? Trump has also been.
Yeah, but it's not about a crime or accusing. It's not about that. My thing is, again, the running theme about Labour is they hold these sorts of things hugely to account. They hold the moral high ground on who the Conservatives have been rubbing shoulders with, who people have been seen with. They're the first to come out and criticise. So this sort of appointment goes against what their criticism of the Conservatives have been and of reform have been.
I don't think so.
No?
Mandelson is not...
Why was he coined the Prince of Darkness?
Because he's cynical. He's quite quite a cynical politician, but he gets things done. He is a former Labour MP as well. He has not just a donor.
OK, so hold on. Well, we'll get this is great, and it's really good to hear your thoughts. But let's this show is nothing without you and your views. So let's welcome one of our great British voices there. Opportunity to be on the show and tell us what they think about the topics we're discussing. Let's go to Watford. Let's have a chat with David Baum. David, thank you for joining us. So, Peter Mandelson, is he a good choice?
How can I say this without causing GB to go off air? No, he's not. He is the one. He's known as the Prince of Darkness. He worked behind the scenes very happily. Labour have a major problem, though. Keir Starmer has a major problem. Every single person within the Labour upper echelon has derided Donald Trump while they're in opposition. So how can you find anyone who can act as the ambassador, who's supposed to represent Great Britain PLC, who has had any respect for the leader of the supposedly leader of the free world? He can't. Every single one of them, and every appointee he's got, David Lammy, every single one of them has tried to destroy Donald Trump while they're in opposition. Now it's, oh, we're sorry, a very nice man, Mr. Trump, and please forgive us, and can we have some orders from you, please? I'm sorry, Peter Mandelson has been found guilty over the years for numerous misdemeanours and dodgy dealing. He should not be anywhere near frontline politics. He should have been retired and put out to pasture.
All right, thank you very much, David Baum. I mean, I'm not sure about the evidence of all of that, but I will have a look. But that's his thoughts. That's David Baum. He's our great British voice. Now, if you are in search of some weather sun, here is the forecast of some top European holiday destinations. Have a listen.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Storm Dino so clears, but it remains often cloudy and sometimes windy around coastal areas, particularly for the Canary Islands and Madeira. A fairly strong northwesterly flow dragging in some cloud and some outbreaks of rain at times. Fairly settled across Portugal and Spain, but as we move further east, cloudy with some showers at times, particularly for Rome and at times parts of Greece. But it generally looks like it's improving by the time we reach the middle of the week, with the best of the temperatures across Madeira.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Well, loads more still to come. 47 after 4 o'clock. You're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We are the People's Channel. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Next, it's Royal Roundup time. Stay tuned. That's on the way.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Jubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Lee Anderson's Real World, Fridays from 7 p.m.
I'm joined with Ryan Mark Parsons, who's a TV personality, a columnist, and he was on The Apprentice a few years back, weren't you? That's where most people would recognise your face from. One of the youngest contenders ever on The Apprentice. How did that work out?
Well, you know what? I never in a million years thought I'd get on the show. I was 18 when I applied. There were about 6 months of auditions. It was intense. You met Lord Sugar's advisors, his lawyers, his business advisors. It was the most intense thing I've ever done. And I just thought, never in a million years am I going to get on the show as a teenager. And I got the call from the exec. And he was like, you're one of the 16 candidates. And it was just like, really? So I took a gap year. I've just finished my A-levels. I was working in Harrods before. And I just came up with this business idea, took it onto the show, and I got fired in the end. I lasted 8 weeks, which wasn't too bad. But
what was the business idea? Educate me.
A concierge, similar to companies like Velocity Black, quintessentially, that work with some of the private banks. It was similar to that. I was inspired by my time in Harrods, working with some of these ultra high net worth clients. So I just wrote a 40-page business plan like we all have to do. but I didn't make it to the interview, so I didn't get to talk about it. But no, it was a great experience, a very tough experience, but unforgettable.
So at a young age, how did that change your life at that age? Because you must have got recognised, starting to be recognised when you're going out and about town.
Yeah, I mean, it happened quite quickly because the adverts start rolling out on BBC One and then the shows go on air. It's once a week on a Wednesday. You're getting about 7 million people tuning in every week.
Yep.
And yeah, it was surreal. It was surreal. And then suddenly you get invitations to things. You're going to premieres and it was a lot. It was a lot at a young age. And I obviously had no training for any of that. But I just embraced it and I've had fun with it.
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon. Now, there is always something going on in the royal household, and this week has been no different. And every Saturday, I like to give you a rundown, and who better to do so than royal writer and photographer Ian Lloyd. He joins me now. Ian, so talk to me. What's going on then? Good afternoon.
Hello,
so,
Nana.
Prince Andrew has been linked to this alleged Chinese spy. Where are we with this story?
Well, like you say, it's still alleged. They're trying to work out what access, if any, he had to the various palaces, Buckingham Palace, Windsor, and so on. That's being investigated. And meanwhile, of course, Prince Andrew has pulled out of the Royal Christmas and the pre-Christmas party they had last week at Buckingham Palace, which apparently is down to Sarah, Fergie. And the King's quite, delighted about that because the King hates confrontation, a bit like his mother did. So he wouldn't have been the one that said, please don't come. I mean, he hoped that Andrew would say, I'm not coming. But it was down to Sarah, apparently, to pull that out. So got to feel a bit sorry.
Are the Waleses coming? Do we know if the Prince and Princess of Wales are coming to the pre-Christmas lunch as well? Because I heard they may not be going either.
Well, that's happened. That happened on Thursday. They didn't go. No, they went to Sandringham, to their house near Sandringham, Anna Hall. That Christmas lunch is really for the extended royal family, the cousins, the Kents and the Gloucesters and things like that, as a thank you for the work that they put in. But the extended family is so large that they can't all go to Sandringham. So Sandringham is really for the descendants of Elizabeth II, if you like, plus Princess Margaret's children and grandchildren. So, even with that, there's about 40 odd of them. So that's quite a lot. But yeah, you got to feel a bit sorry for Fergie because for 30 years she wasn't allowed to go to Sandringham because she divorced, and she used to go to a house on the estate. Prince Philip wouldn't let her in the main house. So even though her daughters were at Sandringham, she couldn't join in. And then last year, the King, who has more forgiving nature, got her to join the royal, party, and she walked to church. So she must have thought, great, a new beginning. And then, of course, this year she's back to square one.
Oh, poor Sarah Ferguson. She comes across as a really nice person, actually, I think. So for Christmas dinner, who do they have booked to be there? Then is it just the main royals? Are they just having Christmas together?
What do you mean with King Charles at Sandringham? Yeah, it's the
big event.
It's Prince. Yeah, his obviously no Harry and Meghan, of course, but it's William and the three grandchildren and Edward and his family, Princess Anne and her family. And this year, apparently, Camilla's two children and their family. I hadn't realised they'd not been before, but they've not been to Christmas lunch, but they're going this year. And as I said, Princess Margaret's daughter, Sarah, who's very, very close to Charles, interested in art and all of that kind of thing. And also the late Queen brought up Sarah and David because Princess Margaret would go off on holiday every summer and leave them with her sister. So they grew up alongside them, the same age as Edward and Andrew.
All right. Well, Ian, thank you very much. Really good to talk to you. That's Ian Lloyd. He's a royal writer and a photographer. Right, you're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. Coming up in Difficult Conversations, controversial adult content creator Bonnie Blue will be here live in the studio. You won't want to miss it, but first, let's get some weather.
heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Well, looking ahead towards the Christmas week, it is set to turn much milder across the country. But before we get there, we have plenty of wind and cold weather out there for the rest of the weekend. That's all courtesy of this area low pressure, dragging in some very cold air from the north, and also note the isobars indicating some very windy weather too. So as we see at Saturday, plenty of showers around, especially across the northern half of the UK. Some of these showers will turn increasingly to sleet and snow, mainly across the high ground, but that may well lead to some icy stretches as we go through the course of the night. Also, wind warnings in force across many western and northern areas. So if you do have travel plans over the course of the weekend, do allow some extra time for your journeys. So as we start Sunday morning off, we will see some sunshine around, especially across East Anglia and the southeast of England. But further west, showers from the word go, and a very similar story across the north too. But here we will continue to see the risk of some sleet and snow, especially for the high ground of Scotland, where the winds will also remain very strong. Risk of gales, potentially severe gales, as we start Sunday morning in places. And really, for most of us, it is going to be a blustery day. And that wind really is going to make it feel bitterly cold right across the country. Best of any brightness really will be across the east, with the most frequent and heaviest showers continuing across Scotland, where again they will be of a wintry nature. So temperatures a little bit academic. These what we'll see on the thermometer, but factor in the strength of the wind, as I mentioned, it is going to be feeling much colder than this. Into the evening, very little changes across the north, still further sleet and snow showers around, but across the south a little bit quieter, with more in the way of dry and clearer weather developing. And then as we head towards the Christmas period, it does look like it's going to turn much milder, so the chances of snow at this stage very low.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Imagine getting the call to tell you that you've won £50,000 in tax-free cash, our biggest cash prize of the year.
Oh my God.
That's a big surprise.
Oh my God. This is amazing.
I'm in shock.
I'd say don't hesitate, do it.
For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Our next guest has a rather unique career story. She was working at a pub, aged 18, and Holly Farmer was spotted by a modelling scout, and it turned out to be her lucky day.
Scott Yoss Clark sent this message to Holly.
Holly, 18, 5'10", she does not belong in a pub. And I absolutely love that, Holly, because it's a bit like Dirty Dancing, where it's like, you can't put baby in the corner. Holly does not belong in a pub. You belong on the catwalk. What was that moment like for you when you were scouted by yours?
It was crazy. I have to say I wasn't expecting it, to be honest. Like, I was just on my lunch break. I was working at a pub, so... yeah, I was on my lunch break walking, going to Primark, and...
You're going to Primark?
Got stopped by yours.
And how did that interaction go?
Well, first question was, how tall are you? So, 5'10".
Very much that.
Yeah, then he gave me his card and asked, like, explained everything, that he's a model scout, obviously.
Yeah, because generally when I scout, especially when I get close to that person, I tend to look in their eyes, and when you see something there, it's like everything works on the face, and then the eyes gives you away.
Well, you've spotted a gem in Holly. I mean, you can tell even when you walked in, you are built to be a model.
I did my first fashion week here in London and then went to Paris, and it was really fun. Wow. Now it's my full-time job. It's a bit crazy, to be honest.
Wow.
To be able to say that modelling is my full-time job now. Some brands will ask you to be a bit more serious, and then others not.
So it depends on the client's request as well. Ellie, give us your best model face. Ready? 3. I wonder if we can come back. 3, 2, 1. Very nice.
What do you think? High fashion.
Yeah.
But you guys do all like contorted moves, don't you?
Yeah.
Like all this high fashion. Do yours?
I'm just permanently living in model
You actually
model
are,
world.
though. He actually
this
does.
is it.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome. It's just coming up to 5 o'clock. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. And for the next hour, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me for the next hour, political commentator Lynn May, and also political commentator Jonathan Liss. What an odd face Lynn May pulled just then. Coming up, do you believe Nigel Farage could run the economy? Chancellor Rachel Reeves has launched a scathing attack on him and claims that the Reform leader hasn't got a clue. So I've got a poll up on X asking, do you believe Nigel Farage could run the economy? Possibly could do a better job than her. Cast your vote. What do you think? Then, difficult conversations. Adult content creator Bonnie Blue will be live in the studio. Now, she has become one of the most controversial figures this year by engaging in sexual marathons and in clickbait. This anti-Keir Starmer parody song has reached #1 on the download charts. Have a listen.
It'll be freezing this Christmas while Keir Starmer's warm.
Before we get started, let's get your latest news with Sophia Wensler.
Nana, thank you. It's just gone 5 o'clock. These are your headlines. At least 5 people, including a 9-year-old child, have been killed after a car drove into crowds of a Christmas market in Germany. German media are naming the suspect as Taleb al-Abdul Mohsen, a 50-year-old Saudi doctor with reported Islamophobic views. He's been arrested and faces charges of murder and attempted murder as Chancellor Olaf Scholz promises a full investigation. German prosecutors are saying the motive is still unclear, though the attackers' dissatisfaction of the treatment of Saudi refugees in Germany may have been a factor. Flowers have been laid at the scene ahead of a memorial service in the city's cathedral this evening. Now, time is running out for pensioners to claim pension credit and secure their winter fuel payment for 2024 to 2025, with a deadline just hours away. Online applications close at 11:59 p.m. and phone lines closed this afternoon. Around 760,000 pensioners could miss out, with the benefit topping up weekly income and unlocking extra support. The change announced by Rachel Reeves means winter fuel payments now go only to those on means-tested benefits, slashing recipients from 11.4 million to just 1.5 million. Scrap staff parking charges, that's the call from unions, as new research reveals 1 in 4 NHS trusts in England have raised fees for patients, staff or both in the last 2 years. Patient charities say the charges unfairly penalise unwell people, while NHS leaders argue financial pressures leave trusts little choice but to charge. The rises, often targeting city centre hospitals, have seen higher earners pay more, while NHS staff collectively spent over £70 million on parking last year. Unions say health workers are on their knees and need support, not extra costs, as they face the strain of chronic understaffing and the fallout from the pandemic. The Department of Health insists fees are locally set but must be reasonable. Now, crowds across the Northern Hemisphere have been gathering from early on this morning to get a sight of the winter solstice, marking the shortest day and longest night of the year. In London, there's just under 8 hours of daylight, with sunrise at 8:04 and sunset at 3:53 p.m, and even less for people further north. The solstice signals the return of longer days and is celebrated worldwide, from pagan Yule festivals to modern traditions inspired by ancient customs. Events at Stonehenge are among the most iconic, drawing thousands to witness the so-called rebirth of the sun. Wherever you are, today's daylight is less than half of what we'll see on the longest day of the year. And cash tops the list of Christmas gifts for young adults, as a new survey has revealed. Nearly half of 16 to 24-year-olds prefer cash, with 40% happy to receive a voucher and 36% open to a bank transfer. A third would even like a direct payment into their savings account, while a fifth would still welcome a cheque. But across all age groups, gift cards and vouchers remain the most popular choice for financial gifts. As Christmas falls midweek, experts say cash machines will be even busier this year, with customers set to withdraw around £1.5 billion in just 1 week. And wet, windy and wild, Christmas travel plans for millions could be blown off course this weekend. Yellow weather warnings for wind cover much of the UK, with gusts of up to 80 miles per hour forecast for Scotland and northern coastal areas. The Met Office says road, rail and ferry disruption is likely as millions hit the roads. Friday expected to be the busiest travel day since records began in 2010. Showers could bring snow and icy conditions to parts of Scotland, with strong winds making Sunday's journeys exhausting, according to the RAC. Winds will ease by Monday, though, but a mild and cloudy Christmas is on the cards for most of the UK. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now it's back to Nana.
Good afternoon, welcome on board. It's just coming up to 5 minutes after 5 o'clock. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Coming up, we'll be discussing whether Labour are a party of hypocrites on the economy, Waspi women and the House of Lords. They don't seem to be able to stick to anything, actually, or their word in particular. Then, in difficult conversations, the adult content creator Bonnie Blue, who has fast become one of the most controversial figures this year by engaging in sexual marathons, will be here live in the studio. I can tell you now, she's in the green room and she's surrounded by everyone. Everyone wants to talk to her. Then, for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, should sites like OnlyFans be better regulated? Send me your thoughts, post your comments at gbnews.com/your say. So from Sue Gray, the civil servant who investigated Partygate and went on to become Sir Keir Starmer's Chief of Staff, she's been made a life peer, part of the Prime Minister's 30 new appointments as he attempts to swing the House of Lords his way. Meanwhile, Downing Street yesterday confirmed that Lord Peter Mandelson will be the next UK ambassador to the US, and Sir Keir Starmer saying that the Labour grandee will bring unrivalled experience to the role and take our partnership with the United States from strength to strength. But why don't we take a listen to Lord Mandelson's previous comments about President-elect Donald Trump?
With an American president who is little short of a white nationalist and racist. Even those who have a sneaking admiration for Donald Trump because of the strength of his personality, nonetheless regard him as reckless and a danger to the world.
White nationalist, racist, reckless and a danger to the world. Yes, this is the man that they've chosen as the US-UK ambassador. Well, joining me now is the barrister and writer Stephen Barrett. Stephen, you heard all that. I mean, should we start with the whole peerage system and then we move on?
Sure. I mean, I've been through the list of Labour peers. It's not inspiring in any way, and that's not to disparage the left. There are a great many minds on the left. I was taught constitutional law by what's called a Bennite, somebody who adores Tony Benn, and I've always therefore had great admiration for him. But there are many names upon the left living now who are powerful, brilliant minds who would add something to the House of Lords. It's difficult to see what the question is if the answer is Thangam Debonair. One of the other appointees is the guy who lost Tony Blair's safe seats in the Boris wave. But I mean, I'm not entirely sure what qualifications he's bringing to the House. We are eventually going to have to deal with the House of Lords. A lot of people have been talking about it for a very long time. I think people who are passionate about reforming the House of Lords probably need to get out and get a life. But it's one of those issues where it's on the list, and eventually it's probably going to have to come up because they are successive Prime Ministers. You can criticise Conservative-appointed peers just as easily as I can criticise these Labour peers. I mean, Kemi actually has done quite well because she's put in Nigel Biggar, who is a proper brain. I mean, that's a serious appointment to the House of Lords. That will benefit the House.
And Toby Young.
And Toby Young, who's perhaps more of a controversial figure, but I mean, I like him personally, so I don't want to let my personal bias sort of assuage me, but it's very difficult to argue against Nigel. So if you were left-wing, I don't think they'd criticise Nigel Biggar. And maybe what I'm showing now is that I respect the House of Lords, and I would like it to be staffed with extremely high-quality people. I mean, two members of the House that I deeply respect are Kate Hoey and Claire Fox, neither of whom could be accused of sharing politics with me. But they are serious intellectual minds who benefit the House.
Do you think it should be an elected House?
These are questions that we're all going to have to answer. I think referendums are the best way of settling this.
Yeah.
I don't personally like it because we have an elected chamber, and I like something. I have a sort of danger Will Robinson approach to the Constitution, and if you change something, I tend to just feel mildly sick and have to sit down. And I think if we move to an elected chamber, we're changing something, and it might cause a power imbalance. I don't want the two chambers to be fighting.
Yeah.
That's very important.
Or for them to be so easily manipulated if it turns out to be something that's elected, even though, Keir Starmer wants to get rid of hereditary peers and things like that, so he can readjust the balance. He's not going to be able to change the whole thing. What about Peter Mandelson and his appointment as the US-UK ambassador? I see your face moving in a direction.
So because Nana, we're both on Twitter, and viewers might see me there, and it was obvious from the US election that you should not take a side. Yeah. So I did not take a side, and I could not, and I would watch day after day as otherwise educated and respectable British commentators would throw themselves into the maelstrom by taking a side. Why on earth would you take a side? We don't have a vote in how they vote. They get who they want, and then we work with them. That's the deal, and they are our closest ally. And I'm afraid Peter Mandelson is one of those many people on the Labour side who've just simply they picked the wrong horse and they lost. So how is that sustainable? It's not. I mean, they'll try and spin it as Donald Trump doing something morally wrong, but it was obviously going to happen. If you pick the wrong horse, you will lose. And I mean, hearing those comments, they're just utterly disgraceful towards our greatest and most important ally. If Harris had won, then I would still be able to sit here and say exactly the same thing about all the many people who attacked her. I mean, it's just
because they don't need to. They don't need to pick a side. They don't have to. They don't have to be rude about Donald Trump or rude about Kamala Harris. No. They could just be calm, and then just whoever comes along could work with. But these lot have been spouting such insults to people. They don't need to be doing that.
It's infantile, it's childish, he's a peer of the realm. Should he be using these words anyway? I mean, I wait for the day when society grows up. I think there is a generation above me, of which Peter Mandelson is a member, who were quite infantile. I often call them the Adina Monsoon generation. They wanted to be cool. They were that vicar who wants to get the guitar out and sing Kumbaya. They want the supply teacher who wants the kids to think he's the coolest thing since Christendom. And, call me Tony. Actually, they've done quite a lot of harm to how things work in our country. That's not even party political. That's just, I think that, I mean, even Call Me Dave was exactly the same thing. Yeah. We need to go back to being a serious country who thinks things through and realises we have a very powerful and important ally in the United States whom we simply shouldn't get involved with when they have elections.
Exactly. Well, I couldn't agree more. And finally, the Waspi women. You saw one after the other of Labour MPs at the time, and some of them, those clips date back to 2019, but really standing in support of the Waspi women, and now going completely in the opposite direction.
Yeah, and there's 3.5 million Waspi women. And countless Labour MPs, members of the Cabinet, the Prime Minister himself, gave those individuals the impression they were on their side. And we're going to have to start asking questions, very difficult questions that lawyers don't want to ask. So let me just explain very clearly. I cannot imagine a single judge in the land wants to do a trial where there's a politician on trial for dishonesty. They're not going to want to do it. And it won't matter where the politician comes from. They won't want to do it.
Is there anything in law that protects people from those, you know, on the strength of their choice to be in supportive of Waspi women? Some people may well have voted for them.
Well, it is very close to being illegal, and that's the problem. I mean, the laws will start to get involved and be engaged. We can't... They are running... This government in particular, I've never seen a red government or a blue government behave quite this way before. I mean, they're misleading the House left, right and centre, but the House doesn't seem to care anymore. Apparently, it only matters if it's Boris and it's cake. But if you run around pretending that laws don't apply to you, society can ignore that for a period of time, but eventually society's not going to be able to do that because you're being too destructive. Nobody wants to bring the law into this, and the police forces won't want to investigate. You know, police and crime commissioners won't want to get involved, and that's no criticism of any individual. Everybody would just rather stay away from politics. But that involves politicians behaving honourably, which these ones are not. And that's the problem that I think eventually the law is going to start getting involved with this. This government's, I mean, it's the most unpopular government I've ever seen in my lifetime, and I think if anybody's going to crash into the law, it's going to be this one.
All right, Stephen Barrett, thank you very much. Really good to talk to you. That is Stephen Barrett. He's a barrister and writer. Well, it's just coming up to 16 minutes after 5 o'clock. If you just tuned in, welcome on board. You've come in at the right time. Difficult conversations. Adult content creator Bonnie Blue, who's become one of the most controversial people of the year for sexual marathons, will join me in a few minutes.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GBNews, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
1 in 20 people are diagnosed with seasonal affective disorder across the UK.
Yes, Healthwatch has revealed that men are more likely to suffer from this than women. Did you know?
Triggers apparently include a decrease in daylight hours, which is certainly happening around about now. If you're leaving the office, it's dark. When you come home, it's dark, as well as the falling temperatures.
Yes, and both of those things happen a lot, don't they, here in Britain? So how can we combat the symptoms of seasonal affective disorder? Well, to discuss this, we're joined now by Dr. Andreas Fonseca, the founder and director of Thrive Mental Wellbeing. Really good to see you this morning, Doctor. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Now, there'll be lots of people watching and listening this morning and saying, what a load of rubbish. It's always been cold in this country. It's always been dark. What is seasonal affective disorder? Is it really a thing?
Well, it is a thing, and it's been known for quite some time. This is not new, really. It is a form of depression. That's what it is. And it's got specific characteristics that kind of differentiate it from other forms of depression. So the reason probably we're talking more about it is because it's basically people are more aware of it and they're recognizing it more. So before you used to be sort of just saying this person's got depression, now you have some specific things to look at that can differentiate it from other kinds of depression, which is quite useful because it's got some specific forms of treatment. So the things that are different about seasonal affective disorder are that for the diagnosis you need 2 years in which you only have episodes during either the late autumn or early winter. So that's when they start, and they fade away by late spring, summer. Early summer. So that's how it works. And you cannot have any episodes at any other time. So it has to be seasonal, specifically seasonal.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect, and then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon. It's just gone 19 minutes after 5 o'clock. If you've just tuned in, where have you been? Tune in now. I'm Nana Akua. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. This is GB News and it's now time for this week's Difficult Conversations. Now, this week is the controversial adult content creator Bonnie Blue, who has fast become one of the most controversial figures this year, having engaged in sexual marathons, having sex with at least, I think it's around about 158 men in just 2 weeks, after posting "Bonk Me for Free" adverts at university's fresher events. The 25-year-old, whose real name is Tia Billinger, is now worth an estimated £5 million and makes up to £600,000 a month, posting the footage on OnlyFans, where fans pay to watch her have sex with strangers. Well, I'm very pleased to say that Bonnie Blue joins me now. Bonnie, welcome.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Wow. All right, so I'm really appreciate you coming in, because I know a lot of people want to ask you questions and find out why did you start all of this?
Yeah. I just wanted a better life. I used to work an office job, 9 till 5, sit in rush hour, get given 20 days annual leave. And for a while, I'd accepted that. I was like, OK, this is what life is. This is as good as it can get. And then, you know, when you start looking back on life thinking, am I going to get, you know, when I'm in a care home and think, wow, I should have done something more. I shouldn't have cared about people's judgment. So I thought, no, I want to change that. I don't want to be scared what people are going to think about me. And I want to give, you know, get freedom.
So how do you jump from, I just want a better life to, I know, I'll do that, because that doesn't spring to mind for me?
100%. So I'd relocated to Australia at the time, had 2 years off. And then when it came to going back into an office, I was like, definitely not. Like, it's just not going to make me happy. So I started off camming online. So, wow, just interacting with men, you know, over a webcam. And I had a lot of fun. I enjoyed the interaction. It boosted my confidence. And I was having... I don't know, I enjoyed pleasuring them. I enjoyed, you know, having pleasure myself as well. So then it quickly escalated to OnlyFans, because in my eyes, if I was making content anyway to put on this, you know, can work website, I thought I might as well use a more established website like OnlyFans.
So this camming is just you talking to men, you're just doing, are you doing things, or you just...
Yeah, so some people could just do face-to-face, but I felt like I want that interesting to be able to keep the minutes ticking along. So yeah, it'd be anything from, you know, fully undressed, to basically just sort of, as long as what they was asking was above board, I basically did anything to entertain or please them.
So you then decided OnlyFans was the way forward?
Yes. And when I first started, I hadn't slept with many people. I was very innocent and didn't understand half the terminology. And I mean, I still have to Google half of it nowadays, but it was more of a learning curve. When I first started, I'd fake it on camera all the time. I didn't really know...
So it was just you and the camera pretending
No,
to...
so I'd be with other people. Okay. I'd do anything from, like, group scenes to just one, you know, with another guy or another girl. But I didn't really... Not that I didn't enjoy it. I had fun, but I didn't necessarily receive pleasure. And it's because I didn't necessarily know what I enjoyed or what I wanted or how I wanted to receive pleasure or how to sort of give pleasure to different people. Because I'd been in such a long-term relationship before, you get used to how to pleasure that one person and what they, you know, enjoy, as opposed to how to pleasure different people and reach their different needs.
So you started OnlyFans?
Yes.
And it was just normal, just a few interactions here and there. So where does that go from a couple of interactions to, oh, I'm going to sleep with 158 men or however many it was in a few weeks?
So it started off, obviously I realised I was posting these videos pretending I'm having an amazing time. And that's false. And it was fake, and it was fake storylines. I'd, you know, be dressed up, or they was pre-scripted. And also you discuss consent, what you enjoy, what you don't enjoy, all off camera. And if you're switching positions, that's all edited out. So I was like, I'm posting these videos, and it's not either relatable, and it's also in a way fake, because that is not how it happened, you know, on the day. So it's like, I want my content to be more relatable and realistic to people, and also educational.
So that's why you... So when was your first decision to have so many people at such a short space of time?
So I started going to events like Freshers, Spring Break, and there's one in Australia called Schoolies, which is a high volume of sort of 18-year-old people in, you know, I guess a small time frame. So I was like, if I could go and sleep with as many people as I could, not only do I educate those I sleep with, but also I get a video that can educate the wider audience. And obviously I can monetise off that.
I see, but when you say educate, what do you mean? Or what are you teaching people?
school. You learn about sex education at school, but it tends to be from like a middle-aged teacher who just talks about STDs and says if you have unprotected sex, you're going to get pregnant. And then it goes to people learning online from adult sites, which could be anything from a schoolgirl dressed up, which keeps, you know, playing the innocent game, saying, no, I don't want it. It then leads to them bent over the table and it goes into sort of like a rough scene. So that can be very misleading. And like, what do people learn from that? Like, I'm not saying those scenes are wrong, but there needs to be something that bridges the gap from sex education at school to these videos online, which can blur the line of consent. So I was like, I want to make content that people can watch, can relate to it, but also can learn. So it's when I sleep with students, or barely legal, as I've said and the media have said, it shows me discussing consent with them. It shows me saying to them, this is what I enjoy, this is what I don't enjoy. And it also gives them an opportunity to tell me what they like. And sort of, I guess, use me as a guinea pig. Trial what you like and what you want to do. So when you go to the next person, you know exactly how to pleasure them and, you know, how to receive pleasure as well.
If you called yourself a sex therapist, that would be acceptable, you know that? Because that's kind of, in a way, what you're describing.
Yeah.
But aren't you worried? So you slept with 158 men
2 weeks.
In 2 weeks, which is a lot. I mean, how many is that a day that you'd have to sleep with?
Some days, the biggest day was 37. Some days were just few, so like it was a mixture. And a lot of it blows into one, so I couldn't tell you.
Are you not worried? Because I'm sure people say to you, you're not worried about catching diseases.
Yeah.
And are you not worried about that?
100%, it's always a concern. I do use condoms. And most of those students I sleep with have never used condoms before, or they're under the impression if they use a condom, they're not going to be able to finish or they're not going to enjoy the experience. And that's completely not the case. So it's good being able to show them, look, you can still have a really good time whilst using protection. And me, myself, I get tested every 2 weeks.
But what about the people who come to you? Do they have to be tested? When you did the 2 week thing, you didn't insist that they...
So that's just condoms. If it was a other collab, which is, you know, what you mainly see online, you both get tested. But obviously that's not shown online either. These 18-year-olds that watch content, they just say, oh, yeah, these guys sleep with a lot of people. They don't discuss, you know, condoms or STD tests, whereas at least when they meet me, they realise you can talk about STDs, you can talk about, oh, could you go and get tested? And that's completely fine. It shouldn't be shamed upon, or you shouldn't feel afraid to ask someone.
So you make it sound so perfectly fine, but you're making a fortune out of it. So how much are you making
it's
it
about
a month?
£600,000 a month.
Oh, my God. That's a lot, isn't it?
It's a lot of money. But then I also get hate because I don't pay the students I sleep with. And a lot of people say that's wrong. But if I was to pay them, people would then say, oh, I'm bribing them, or they're doing it because they have to do it. Whereas at least if I'm not paying them, they're doing it purely out of choice, purely because they want to experience pleasure with me. There's no bribery or there's no even incentive for them. It's purely because they want to be there.
Well, I mean, it's consenting adults. Do you think, though, in a way, because you've done it, but then there's the other lady, is it Lily? I've forgotten her surname now. Lily
Phillips.
Lily Phillips, that's the one. Now, she slept with 100 men in one day.
Yes.
That, for me, seems frightening. That sounds frightening. Does that sound frightening to you, 100 in one day?
I think as long as you're enjoying it and you're having a good time, like, I always think, who are we to say they can't do that? Like, and at any point, I think if you're going to be getting upset and stuff afterwards, then, OK, you need to look back and think, is this for me? Am I in the right job, or am I doing the right thing? But as long as you, at the end of the day, can go to sleep happy, you know, and you've enjoyed yourself, you've given pleasure, received pleasure, then I think, no, it's completely fine to do.
So what are your thoughts? Because she was crying afterwards.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not what I saw when I watched your videos. You were like, oh, yeah, it's great, you know, whatever. And you were normal, which is, you know, obviously it's consenting adults. You're doing things that you've all agreed that that's OK. To me, it looked like you'd spent more time making sure that things were safe for you. I was quite concerned watching Lily, but I wasn't that concerned watching you.
I think it's different. Both got different setups, different, you know, different reasons. I really focus on pleasure, educating them, making ethical content. I think we've both got different paths we're going down in terms of content. But like I said, I don't use lube half the time because I'm enjoying myself and having pleasure, and it's
probably a bit too much information at this time, to be honest with you. Apologies to those of you who are slightly offended, but I don't think you are.
But yeah, it's just focused on pleasure. And if at any point I was sleeping with one of them students, and even though I'd consented at the start, if I thought, oh, actually, I feel a bit uncomfortable, I'm not having a good time, you can change your mind at any point. And I think that's what people should be aware of. If you're not enjoying it, or if you think this is too much for your body or too much mentally, you should always step out, and that should be, you know, that should go for anything.
Yeah, absolutely. So, your next thing, are you not also concerned that, I mean, you might be sort of encouraging other young people watching to think, oh, yeah, that sounds great, I should do that, when it's quite a dangerous thing to be doing in reality, isn't it?
I think it's like, because I spoke to my mum about this, it's more unsafe to be walking down the street nowadays as opposed to me doing this with security on the door, you know, consent forms, breathalyzer tests. So it's like I'm actually in a safe environment, and so are the students. So no, I don't ever feel unsafe. Yes, I get a lot of death threats, but yes.
Oh, I get those all the time.
I know.
I've had those, I'm still here.
So am I. So I think, as long as you make a Netflix series out there and you pick someone pretty, I'm all good for it.
So for you, then, what is next? Because this is something that you will be so rich, really, in the end, you probably won't need to do very much of it. So you must be looking at an exit strategy.
No exit strategy, to be honest. If I wanted to leave now, I've got more than enough money to retire, but I'm having fun. Like, I never thought I could be this happy or content in my life, which people think I must be traumatised or there's something wrong with me mentally, or they're sort of waiting for this downfall or for me to come forward and say, oh, I was forced into it or I wasn't happy. But I really am happy, and there's no other ways to put it, but people don't understand. But I just want to continue pleasuring people, giving back to the people that have allowed me to get to where I am.
And your parents are all in on this, and they're quite happy with you doing this, and they're not worried?
They're like any other parents. They want me to be happy, and they see how happy I am now, so they're more than supportive.
And do you have a partner now?
No.
You don't want one either, I bet.
No, it's... come words out. If I meet someone in the future, which I'm sure I will, amazing, but I'm in no rush. Like, I think a lot of people think to be happy, you need a partner, or, you know, you need children, or you need certain things in your life, and you don't. Like, happiness comes from within yourself, and you're the one that's in control of your happiness. It should never be focused on, you know, someone else making you happy. You should be in control of your own life, and that's exactly what I've done. And I think it hurts people, you know, and jealous people to say I've made myself happy, rich, all by myself without needing someone else.
Well, but you know what, though? All credit to you.
Yeah.
And for being open and honest about it. But obviously, it is dangerous, what you're doing.
Yeah.
And you really need to look after yourself and protect
100%.
yourself. Because there are people out there who don't care.
Yeah.
And, you know, you may come across something who could give you something that, you know, could be dangerous. So you just need to look after yourself.
Yeah, no, I do.
All right, well, Bonnie Blue, I'm glad I've met you.
Maybe I'll see you in my next queue.
Well, no, I won't be in the next queue. What are you talking about? I'll be having my own queue. This is what you're making. No, I won't be doing that. But Bonnie Blue, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thanks for having me.
That is adult content creator Bonnie Blue live on GB News. I'm Nana Akua. Welcome. If you've just tuned in, you just missed it, but you can catch up via the GB News app or on YouTube. We are live on TV, online and on digital radio. Still to come, the Great British Debate this hour. And we're asking, should sites like OnlyFans be better regulated? What do you think? My panel will let you know their views. But first, let's get your latest news with Sophia Wensler.
Nana, thank you. These are your headlines at 5:31. At least 5 people, including a 9-year-old child, have been killed after a car drove into crowds at a Christmas market in Germany. German media are naming the alleged suspect as Talib al-Abdul Mohsen, a 50-year-old Saudi doctor with reported Islamophobic views. He's been arrested and faces charges of murder and attempted murder as Chancellor Olaf Scholz promises a full investigation. German prosecutors are saying the motive is still unclear, though the attacker's dissatisfaction of the treatment of Saudi refugees in Germany may have been a factor. Flowers have been laid at the scene ahead of a memorial service in the city's cathedral this evening. In other news, the deadline for pensioners to claim pension credit and secure their winter fuel payment is fast approaching. Online applications close at 11:59 p.m. and phone lines have now closed. Around 760,000 pensioners could miss out, with the benefit topping up weekly incomes and unlocking extra support. The change, announced by Chancellor Rachel Reeves, means winter fuel payments now go only to those on means-tested benefits, slashing recipients from 11.4 million to just 1.5 million. The Prince and Princess of Wales are funding a new programme to tackle mental health challenges in rural Norfolk communities. Partnering with Norfolk and Waveney Mind, the 2-year pilot will provide counselling and targeted support for the 1,500 residents around the Sandringham estate. Set to launch in 2025, the initiative will include training for local employers to address issues like rural isolation and farming-related pressures. It's hoped the project could become a blueprint for mental health support on other rural estates across the UK. Today, dubbed Super Saturday, is set to take the crown as the busiest shopping day of 2024, with footfall in the UK stores expected to rise compared to last year. As last-minute shoppers swarm the aisles, the shift from online to in-store shopping is expected to peak, marking a key moment in the festive shopping season. Retailers are gearing up for a £2.5 billion spending spree, hoping to turn the holiday rush into a boost for the retail sector. But there's a twist. More shoppers are turning to discount brands, with 36% of Christmas spending expected to shift away from traditional retailers. Millennials are leading the charge, set to spend more than 40% of their festive budgets at discount stores like Aldi, B&M and Lidl. And wet, windy and wild, Christmas travel plans for millions could be blown off course this weekend. Yellow weather warnings for wind cover much of the UK, with gusts of up to 80 miles per hour forecast for Scotland and northern coastal areas. The weather has led to the cancellation of some ferry services, road closures, flight cancellations at Heathrow Airport and rail disruption. Showers could bring snow and icy conditions to parts of Scotland, with strong winds making Sunday's journeys exhausting, according to the RAC. Winds will ease by Monday, but a mild and cloudy Christmas is on the cards for most of the UK. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now it's back to Nana.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. We're looking ahead towards the Christmas week. It is set to turn much milder across the country, but before we get there, we have plenty of wind and cold weather out there for the rest of the weekend. That's all courtesy of this area low pressure, dragging in some very cold air from the north, and also note the isobars indicating some very windy weather too. So as we see at Saturday, plenty of showers around, especially across the northern half of the UK. Some of these showers will turn increasingly to sleet and snow, mainly across the high ground, but that may well lead to some icy stretches as we go through the course of the night. Also, wind warnings in force across many western and northern areas. So if you do have travel plans over the course of the weekend, do allow some extra time for your journeys. So as we start Sunday morning off, we will see some sunshine around, especially across East Anglia and the southeast of England. But further west, showers from the word go, and a very similar story across the north too. But here we will continue to see the risk of some sleet and snow, especially for the high ground of Scotland, where the winds will also remain very strong. Risk of gales, potentially severe gales, as we start Sunday morning in places. And really, for most of us, it is going to be a blustery day. And that wind really is going to make it feel bitterly cold right across the country. Best of any brightness really will be across the east, with the most frequent and heaviest showers continuing across Scotland, where again they will be of a wintry nature. So temperatures a little bit academic. These what we'll see on the thermometer, but factor in the strength of the wind, as I mentioned, it is going to be feeling much colder than this. Into the evening, very little changes across the north, still further sleet and snow showers around, but across the south a little bit quieter, with more in the way of dry and clearer weather developing. And then as we head towards the Christmas period, it does look like it's going to turn much milder, so the chances of snow at this stage very low.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop star to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
So good afternoon, 38 minutes after 5 o'clock. If you just tuned in, you may want to have a rewind of the other bit that you just missed. We had Bonnie Blue here live on GB News. I'm Nana Akua. Welcome. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. It's fast approaching 39 minutes after 5 and it's time for the Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, should sites like OnlyFans be better regulated? Well, we just heard from adult content creator Bonnie Blue, who said that she earns £600,000 a month, and that's made over 5 million this year alone. However, there are concerns that these decisions to do this so-called sexual marathon-type behaviour from people like Bonnie Blue and, of course, Lily Phillips is a dangerous trend, and it's something that perhaps we need to be looking at these sites and enabling it to regulate. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, should sites like OnlyFans be better regulated? Well, joining me, my panel, journalist and commentator Jonathan Liss, and as a political commentator, Lynn May. Right, I'm going to start with Lynn May. What did you think?
Even speaking to her, you know...
Bonnie
Blue back there, I think she sounds... very grounded. She seems like she knows what she's doing, as opposed to, I think it's Lily who, after she was interviewed on the documentary, you could see there was something clearly wrong. Sleeping with that amount of men had moved her in a way that was unhealthy. And for her to then, I don't want to say pretend, but as if to say, you know, now I'm going for 1,000, I think that's massively unhealthy. I think there is enough research out there to suggest that, you know, there is an intrinsic link between anxiety, regret and mental health with having so many different sexual partners, especially as women produce oxytocin, and that is supposed to be an attachment hormone. We're kind of eradicating how our body works. And at the same time, lots of young people, they're looking for that quick win of money. I don't believe you should attach every single thing and justify it by money. So going back to the question of should OnlyFans be regulated, I think it should be regulated. Better regulated. But at the end of the day, this is where we're coming with feminism. I think feminism was massively positive for women to be able to do what they want, and now they're taking it to the degree of this is my body, I can do exactly what I want with it. My concern with Bonnie and Lily, they're very young, not to undermine them or patronise them, but I'd be interested to hear their stories, their mental state of mind and how they feel when they're maybe 35 and 40.
Well, Lily, I think Bonnie's 31, isn't she?
I thought she's 25.
She's 25.
I just made that up.
yeah, she's 25. And I think
somebody else is 31.
And I think when you speak to many 25-year-olds, everything seems okay, no matter what you're doing back then, and you only see the true effects of that when you hit older ages, thinking, you know, and you have to live with maybe regret just because you have loads of money. There's many wealthy people that commit suicide, that feel very lonely and have anxiety. So money is not the answer to everything.
OK. Jonathan Liss.
Well, I think that people make all kinds of decisions when they're young, and some of them they might regret later on, and some of them they might be very happy with. And that relates to all kinds of walks of life. In general, I am a strong liberal. I'm a strong sort of personal liberal. I think that there's nothing morally wrong about consensual sex between adults who are informed about the choice and the risks they have. A lot of sexual choice that people make right for them and not right for other people, and that's completely fine. So, as a general rule, if you do something that might be shocking or disgusting to one person, it's completely irrelevant.
So you're normalising this? You think this is
normalising? If you're happy with it, if that woman is happy with what she's doing with her body, and she goes through these things, and she doesn't feel any kind of...
But that's the
problem afterwards, then I'm perfectly happy.
I don't think women, though... I don't think women are being honest with themselves. I think a lot of this is a reaction to feeling oppressed, whether it be sexually oppressed or, you know, because of the patriarchy, that now they feel, you know, I'm empowered to have loads of sex and it doesn't matter if they're my partner or not. I think when you speak to so many women after they say that they're fine with having so much casual sex, most live with regret, they live with anxiety, and they feel with, you know, they feel meaning...
Say most, but that could be most, but Bonnie Blue maybe not part of that most. But I would put Lily Phillips in there because she...
You know, but then I think with Bonnie, she's a lot more curated with how she does it, as opposed to this sort of... I know it's still a marathon, but Lily's trying to put a number on it, 100 a day, now 1,000 a day, where doctors have actually come out and they've said this could kill you. And my concern is young people on social media, they're seeing so much of the positive sides of this or the glamorous sides of this. So much money, why can't I do this? Why do I need to go to school? She's making almost $1 million a month, where they're not seeing the other sides, which could be how we saw Lily. And Bonnie, obviously, I don't know, she seems happy, but how is she going to be in 5 years? How is she going to be in 10 years?
I think there's just a real moral panic around a lot of these things. I'm not saying that there aren't problems with this industry, and I'm not saying that a lot of young people won't be sort of influenced in the way that you're suggesting, but I also think that it's completely fine to have sex with a lot of people, even if what an individual might look at that number and say, wow, that number is really, really high. That can't be right for you. There's almost like we're projecting our own sort of fears or desires or insecurities or whatever it might be onto other people. Well, it might completely be wrong for you.
I disagree.
It's not just that, though. I think that we have to be real about this because it can be quite dangerous to be sleeping with that many people too. So in terms of disease and all that kind of thing and your own body, and there are some diseases. So, for example, the virus that causes cervical cancer. Now that is,
I think it's,
hold on, no. Well, OK, I mean there is a vaccine at some, but anyway, that's the HPV virus. Now that you have to be very careful because that you may not see anything now, but later on that can develop. So that's what I'm saying. And obviously vaccines don't protect against everything. And if you are sleeping with that many people, then your chances are a lot higher.
Well, look, I mean, I have direct experience, obviously, of the gay community, and what you've seen in the gay community is that there's an extreme awareness of sexual health, and that sort of gay people take immense care of their sexual health, even while they might be indulging in behaviours that some other people might call risky outside of that group. But, for example, you have a pill every day that can protect, that offers 99.99% protection against HIV, for example. There's sort of a doxycycline.
But why are you having
to... cuts the rates of gonorrhea, syphilis, chlamydia, etc. by sort of 75%. There are all kinds of things that we can do. So obviously health is an issue. But there are palliative...
But why are you pumping your body? Why are you pumping your body and overly medicating your body just so that you can just, excuse the term, shag loads of people?
That's not really your business, then.
No, but listen, OK.
It's unhealthy.
It's not your business.
Listen, this was not about you two. This was meant to be about whether OnlyFans should be better regulated. But it's generated and you're talking about yourselves. Now, I would like a simple answer. Do you think that things like OnlyFans should be better regulated? Jonathan Liss, yes or no?
No.
Should it be better? No. And
yes.
Yes, right. Talk about it amongst yourselves outside. Right, though, if you're in search of some winter sun, here is the forecast for some of the top European holiday destinations.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Storm Dino so clears, but it remains often cloudy and sometimes windy around coastal areas, particularly for the Canary Islands and Madeira. A fairly strong northwesterly flow dragging in some cloud and some outbreaks of rain at times. Fairly settled across Portugal and Spain, but as we move further east, cloudy with some showers at times, particularly for Rome and at times parts of Greece. But it generally looks like it's improving by the time we reach the middle of the week, with the best of the temperatures across Madeira.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Oh, crikey. So busy laughing. Listen, stay with me. The quickfire quiz is on the way. I'm going to be testing my panel on some of the other stories of the week. Don't go anywhere.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your-say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Headliners. Tomorrow's papers tonight, every night from 11 p.m.
The Daily Mail now, Josh, and pub landlords have to worry about more than the optics when it comes to offensive banter,
yeah,
it
this
seems.
Is a really big story and important. Pub landlords could have to become banter cops to stop themselves being sued by staff offended by comments from customers under workers' rights reform. So, Labour, when they were part of their election process, they were like, we're going to reform workers' rights, and that all sounds good on paper, but there were issues in terms of how might it affect employees and fear from employees costing them more money. One of these things that they're sort of pushing through, though, is that in the Equality Act of 2010, part of the issue was that if you were offended at work or someone said something sexist or racist, something that affected you, the employer had to take some sort of, like, they had three chances to kind of take action.
Yeah.
Now, the employer should have taken action already. So employees can sue employers. Now, this has a big impact on us because we're comics and we perform in venues. And if some of the bar staff hear a joke that they don't like, then they can sue their employer, potentially, under this legislation.
So it's not punters?
Well, also, it could be like you're at a bar and some bloke is like, oh, I like that top, or whatever. That's not good behaviour. But the point is now that employee could sue their employer.
So, because, I mean, the sort of scenario I was imagining was that a barmaid was being maybe sexually harassed or
That's
something.
what they're focusing in this article, but other articles have gone down the free speech route. Okay. And also venues and universities having lectures. We saw it at, in Edinburgh Fringe Festival and Sadowitz. He had a show cancelled not because of any punters, but because two of the 18-year-olds were working. They were upset by his
There was a
winning.
bar in Brighton, wasn't there? There was a story we covered a few weeks ago. A bar in Brighton threw some people out because...
exactly. They had turfs on the...
turfs. Yeah. GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Right, well, welcome on board. It's time for the quick quiz, the part of the show where I test my panel on some of the other stories hitting the headlines right now. Joining me, political commentator Jonathan Liss. Your buzzer, please, Jonathan. And also political commentator Lynn May. Your buzzer, please. Wonderful. Right. Question 1. In the 2003 Christmas, please play along at home, romance comedy Love Actually, which characters sang Christmas is All Around? Was it A, the wedding singer, B, the Prime Minister, or C, Billy... Jonathan Liss.
C, Billy Mack.
Billy Mack. What were you going to say?
The wedding singer.
You're going to say the wedding singer. The answer is Billy Mack. You're absolutely right. Yes, well done. 1-0 to Jonathan, 1-0 if you're at home there. Question 2. How many of Santa's reindeer's names start with D? Open question. Lynn May.
None.
What's your buzzer?
Right, one.
One. Let's see. It's 2. Dasher and Dancer.
Wrong.
So no points. Did you not know that?
No.
Everybody knows that.
No, did you know?
Right, question 3. Frozen turkeys and Brussels sprouts were among ingredients found to be cheaper. But what staple of a Christmas roast went up in price? Was it A, pigs in blankets, B, potatoes, or C, onions? Stuffing. I've started, so I'll finish. Stuffing. Now press the buzzers. Lynn May.
Stuffing.
You think it's the stuffing?
Pigs in blankets.
Pigs in blankets. It is potatoes.
Oh.
None of them. You're both totally wrong. Yes, they've soared by 23% from £1.52 to £1.86 for a 2.5 kilogram bag. Depends where you go. Question 4, yes or no. Britain invented the Christmas drink eggnog. Lynn May.
No.
Yes.
OK, let's see. The answer is... Yes, it did! It originates from medieval Britain. So the score is, I think it's 1-1.
It's 2.
No, 2-0. I'm definitely awful at the Christmas questions. I'm awful.
She can't win. All right, question 5, closest answer wins. How much is a family in the UK expected to spend on their traditional Christmas dinner this year? To the nearest pound.
Oh.
Come on. Lynn May.
£402.
£402.
I'd say...
Jonathan,
probably, okay, fine. Right, 200.
£200. I think Lynn May's probably near it. No, £31. £66.
How many people are there?
Whose house are you?
One person. Well,
it's your turkey.
They're not even buying a turkey. Pigeon. Stealing a pigeon.
It's per person, so let's...
Per person.
Oh, how many people?
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the first time I've ever won. Thank you so much.
Well, that's because Lynn May...
I won the debate, so it's okay.
She won the debate, that's fair enough. I think she's on the right side of it. Right, well, listen, throughout the show, I've been asking, do you believe that Nigel Farage could run the economy? And according to our Twitter poll, 89% of you said yes. 11% of you saying no. What are you laughing at, Jonathan? He could.
I mean, I don't think it's necessarily representative of the nation as a whole.
Well, it's on X, so it's representative of the people on X.
Well, let's see what the poll says.
Well, I think that I'm not sure what you're thinking, but I think a lot of people put their money on Nigel to win and become the next Prime Minister. I've got to say a huge thank you so much to my panel, journalist and political commentator Jonathan Liss, and also political commentator Lynn May for joining me today. Thank you so much, and a huge thank you to you for your company. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure as ever. Up next, it's time for the Saturday 5. I'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place, 3 till 6, where I'll be joined by Danny Kelly and Lizzie Cundy. But now, I'll leave you with the weather. Enjoy.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Well, looking ahead towards the Christmas week, it is set to turn much milder across the country. But before we get there, we have plenty of wind and cold weather out there for the rest of the weekend. That's all courtesy of this area low pressure, dragging in some very cold air from the north, and also note the isobars indicating some very windy weather too. So as we see at Saturday, plenty of showers around, especially across the northern half of the UK. Some of these showers will turn increasingly to sleet and snow, mainly across the high ground, but that may well lead to some icy stretches as we go through the course of the night. Also, wind warnings in force across many western and northern areas, so if you do have travel plans over the course of the weekend, do allow some extra time for your journeys. So as we start Sunday morning off, we will see some sunshine around, especially across East Anglia and the southeast of England. But further west, showers from the word go, and a very similar story across the north too. But here we will continue to see the risk of some sleet and snow, especially for the high ground of Scotland, where the winds will also remain very strong. Risk of gales, potentially severe gales, as we start Sunday morning in places. And really, for most of us, it is going to be a blustery day.